Hello and happy holidays. This is Wrestle Update, and I'm your host, Dylan Fox. Joining me, as always, is my good friend and everyone's friend in this season that we are in, Nello de Angelis. How are you doing?
Doing well. I was talking to a friend last night. It's funny how Christmas, the older you get, only seems to be like a busier season, whether it be work or making gifts for people or whatever. But I yearn for the days of simplicity where I would simply wake up to gifts. But it's still a great season. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's awesome. I totally agree with you. Obviously, I think everybody as a kid, Christmas is the jam. Ultimately, it's what we're all looking forward to. Yeah, you really get amazed by the big tree. The tree seems to only get smaller. Like, when you're 5 years old, it seems so big, and then when you grow up, it's not as big for some reason. And this year, I posted on Twitter last week. I put up 2 very mini trees, not big, but mini trees on here. I haven't gotten to do all the Christmas stuff that I wanted, putting up lights and all that stuff, which my grandparents really love, especially Nanny. She loves the holidays so much. But this is a Christmas Eve edition of Wrestle Update, and we got some stuff to talk about that's very cool. Nello's been so busy doing great things in the video game world right now. And so we are taking the time now to do it. I'm very happy too. I know we got some big dinners coming up. That's, like I say, that's always my number one piece of advice for any holiday. Do what you want. If you like Hanukkah, that's okay. Whatever you celebrate, but get free food any chance you can get. That's what you need to do. That's the game plan, people. Get free food. I don't care if it's New Year's, Three Kings Day, all of that. I want it all to be, I want everybody to have happy, and that usually means tasty food. And this year we are putting in we're cooking the potatoes with the ham broth, the secret sauce to any great holiday. So it's destined to be good. Can't wait to see what my sister does. I'll probably put some pictures up on Twitter later. Should be a lot of fun on there. And I welcome anybody. Hopefully you guys had some good gifts and good food as well out there. But in the wrestling sector of things, we have stuff to talk about. And it starts with what happened just a week ago. Ring of Honor Final Battle, which, as we determined in the awards, I've got the award nominations set up as well. Me and Nello talked about it off the show, or off the air. We have all the award categories put into play. We will be doing a lot of that. We'll be doing a lot of thinking, having a lot of fun, and we will see what that happens very early into January. It's the very start of the year. We're going to let World's End happen, because who knows? Maybe there'll be a match of the year on there that changes everything. Maybe it'll be a worst show of the year candidate. We don't know. But we will have special episodes for the awards coming up, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Ring of Honor will count in the AEW category because ultimately their biggest show of the year, the Ring of Honor champion wasn't in it because he's too busy in the AEW tournament, unfortunately. So that kind of tells you everything, but we will go through it. And first of all, Final Battle. Ring of Honor. I like how we're doing the show lately because last episode we talked about NXT, their show, which is a show we really don't talk about that much usually on here. Although that's actually on TV, unlike Ring of Honor. We still don't talk about it. But Ring of Honor is not a show where I'm super invested into really any of their storylines. I might see some clips. When it first started, I was an Honor Club subscriber, but the show just really went down, in my opinion, and it wasn't that interesting, in all honesty. Outside of the pay-per-views, obviously, which we talked about, they had a unique format for this show, Final Battle. The first Ring of Honor show since Tony Khan took over, where it was exclusive on Honor Club, their website, Ring of Honor, ROHWrestling.com. What did you think about that move, Nello? Like, moving it from the traditional pay-per-views, which all the other ones have been on, to this Honor Club, this situation here. What did you make of that move?
I subscribed.
Me too, so I guess it worked.
Yeah. I was like, dude, I'd love to pay $10 for Athena versus Billie Starkz. Sign me up, Such a better move. Like,
yeah, I totally agree.
I would much rather pay $10 to get on Honor Club, and now I can watch the actual TV versus paying $30 for a pay-per-view for a company that I don't follow because they're on a streaming service. But yeah, this is such a better alternative.
I was surprised that the negativity surrounding it not coming in, because I think I'm totally agreeing with you. I think it was a much better alternative, just dollars and cents wise for the fans, obviously. And hopefully after this show, especially after one match, there's one match that I really stood out to me that we're going to get into. Hopefully it keeps them on board. Maybe you get another month or two of subscriptions. You got more people signing up because of the lower price. Maybe they like what they see. I don't think there's any downside to what they did putting this on Honor Club at all. Maybe, if you really look at the nitty gritty of it, maybe there's less profits or whatever, but you might get longer term fans out of it and it may pay off later on. So I don't really have any issues with it. The show, obviously, it's a bummer. As cool as it was to have Athena and Billie Starkz in the main event, and as well as it turned out, we'll talk about it. I wish that they had, the tournament kind of predated that and made sure that it wouldn't happen this way. I wish they had some way where he'd still had a title defense on the pay-per-view somehow. Obviously with the tournament, and we're going to talk about the Continental Classic later as well, guys, as well. But just to not have the champion on your biggest show of the year, that was a really off-putting to me. I wish that they had found some way to avoid that somehow. And I don't know how they could have done that. Maybe they could have done something interesting where Eddie put his spot in the tournament on the line. Like, if somebody beats him, they get his points and they're suddenly in the chase to get the title. Something like that. Something with some stakes for Kingston, because for the biggest show of the year, you need to have all of your main guys represented, and girls as well. And that was the one thing that was off-putting for me coming in. But besides that, what was your kind of vibe coming into the show? What was your hype level? Obviously, with the main event, I knew you were really hyped for that. And that's something that they've actually built to for months and months as well. But for the show itself, how were you feeling?
If I'm not mistaken, this was on Friday, not Saturday, right? Because I feel
on the 15th.
I really loved that. I loved having a Friday night pay-per-view, just because I'm not a big SmackDown or Rampage person historically. So that was nice. I mean, we had UFC on Saturday as well, so it was just a fun weekend overall. My hype level was like, I was more excited to watch so I could talk to you about it than necessarily the show itself. But damn, I thought this delivered. Like, it felt like one of those old brand split pay-per-views, like when SmackDown would run, like, remember when they had that Dolph Ziggler Miz feud, and it's like this never would have main evented or been like prominent had they not done like this brand split. Like with your Ethan Page and Tony Nese and stuff like that. I wasn't super excited, but damn, yeah, it really delivered, I thought. What about you?
Oh, yeah, the end result, we'll talk about it, but I thought this was a really strong effort, especially the main matches. I thought they did a lot of things right on this show. Obviously, with the situation being what it is, the Ring of Honor show being on Honor Club, and the effort just isn't always there a lot of the times. But then there's some stuff where they really do put a lot of effort in. And even though it's on Ring of Honor, people talk about it a lot, like Athena and Billie Starkz, their storyline. I think anybody watching this knew what the deal was with that even before the show started. And I think that's a credit to the great work they put in on that. Other stuff was kind of like thrown together. A lot of this show, honestly, felt like, okay, this is just thrown together stuff. So it was a really interesting show from that end. I agree with what you said about it being similar to a brand split era pay-per-view where you would have unique stuff that wouldn't main event on most shows, being on there. I like those. I know a lot of people didn't. Like, a lot of people are anti-brand split, but I like them because you get unique matches that you wouldn't see. Yes. And you don't have to repeat the same stuff over and over. And that is a good point. A lot of these were at least unique. I wish more care had been put into building them up overall. And obviously, like Nyla and Bert, that was obviously a squash. That was meant to get over one person more than mean anything. The other stuff, I wish they had done more with, like, Yuta and Tom and Keith and Shane. Those are good matchups on paper. You could have done some interesting things with, but I don't think they really got very far with them. But regardless, coming in, Io del Vikingo versus Black Taurus for the AAA Mega title. This has been a very controversial match online since it happened. But right now it's got a 7.76 rating from the inmates on with Cage Match, our good friends of Cage Match, obviously. We're airing on there. Thank you very much for that. What did you think of this match here? Because this was the match we talked about when we watched it live before we both had to go our separate ways doing different stuff in the middle of the show. Regardless, what did you think?
Man, this was like one of my favorite pay-per-view openers, like full stop. I know there were some botches and stuff, but again, like it almost felt like I was actively learning what was going to be on this show as it was airing. Like I had no fucking clue this was happening. Commentary, like Riccaboni and Coleman, I love. Riccaboni did a really great job selling that this was a first time ever matchup. In front of a live audience, right? You know, like they ran it once during the pandemic era. But like Riccaboni really sculpted this as a big time match within like 30 seconds of it beginning. And holy shit, did these two just like, I mean, they absolutely exceeded that. I thought doing stuff I've never seen before, really. Taurus is such a great base. Like the ultimate David versus Goliath kind of story. And with like the character work as well, right? Like Taurus is literally a giant fucking minotaur. And then Vikingo being like, you know, the literal, like the Viking style outfit and stuff like that. Like it's a lot more special than a Silverano versus, you know, Taurus or Vikingo. And that's not to say because of the in-ring work, but just simply it's like, looking at these two characters, like it's very fantastical, right? Where this almost looks like a blockbuster film. And dude, yeah, they just did amazing. I thought Vikingo's offense on Taurus was great. He really had to work uphill. And again, it was just like the trios match on Rampage. I really hold grace for these matches in terms of like some slip ups, or, you know, before the show we were talking about how this and the Rampage match were both phenomenal. One was like, you know, the first spectacle, and then the second is like, you know, just cleaner. And I appreciate both immensely. I do agree with Dave's rating on this one. I'll give this, you know, 4.5, dude. I thought this was fucking amazing. Any match that has me smiling, that had me like literally shouting, "Oh my God." And I thought this set an unbelievable pace and standard for the pay-per-view that I think they, you know, relatively managed for the most part. What about you?
Yeah, like you said, we were talking up there. They had a rematch on Rampage just a couple of days ago. And exactly what you said. That match was cleaner. But it's like they took some stuff that didn't work from this pay-per-view match and just cut it out. But the problem is that some of the stuff that didn't work was their most ambitious stuff. This pay-per-view opener, they clearly, especially Vikingo, was just like, all right, I'm going for it. Like, this is the pay-per-view. I'm going to unload my full clip of everything I've got here. And some of the stuff did not work. Like, there were some botches and some mess ups, like, unquestionably about that. Obviously, everyone knows the GIF that's out where he botched the springboard 3 times and Taurus was standing around on the outside. And that was bad. Don't get me wrong. I wish Taurus had actually just – I think he should have tried to cover it up a little better than just standing there personally, as bad as Vikingo was. But then later in the match, Vikingo – hits a 720 rotation move to the outside and lands on his feet. And it's like, this is the most impressive thing anyone's ever done in wrestling, you know? And it's like, oh, the finish. Oh, he just went from a 720 to a 630 splash, unfortunately, to win. And it's like, damn, the action of this match was so hot. When it hit, it was like match of the year level spectacle. There was some stuff that failed that took it down, but I appreciate the effort that they went so crazy. Trying to go for it, and maybe they didn't get all the way, but for an opener, you can't tell me this wasn't entertaining, like to watch overall. And for an opener, that's all you need it to be. And I agree with your point earlier as well, that there was decent psychology in the fact that Taurus is so much bigger than Vikingo. So you have that small versus big story that they played with a lot. I thought Taurus was pretty good. Again, outside of that other that one spot where he was going the outside. But when it came to him being the base for Vikingo, he was phenomenal and he did a great job. He's a guy a lot of people were impressed by. I think his look goes a long way as well. Just like you said, both of these guys, Vikingo as well, they've got super unique looks. They've got aura to them, and they do stuff like, compare Vikingo. I thought that 6-man match on Rampage was a phenomenal match, like one of the best on AEW TV this year. Everybody was great in it. But compare Vikingo to Action Andretti. A talented guy, like don't get me wrong with Andretti, but you just look at him. One guy has a great aura to him with his look, how he carries himself, and then Andretti's still finding himself. He's not there yet overall when it comes to the look and just how he carries himself that Vikingo has, despite being a talented guy in his own right. But Vikingo's special talent, Taurus, I really love a lot. I don't know what they've got planned for them in AEW at all. Vikingo's in such a weird spot in AEW where he's like the utility, the ultimate utility player in a baseball term, where you just plug him in whenever there's an open spot. Oh, let's bring Vikingo in and he'll have this insane match that the crowd pops for. And they rally behind him as an underdog as well, which they did in this match. So perfect utility player. I had this at 4 stars. Still a great match, but I wouldn't say it was a match of the year. For my ratings, I'm a little bit of a hard grader. If it's 4.5 stars, you're probably looking at a match of the year, top 10 match of the year candidate. And I didn't think this was that, but I loved the effort, and I still thought it was a great match.
Yeah, and I think you said it very well at the beginning of what you were saying with, like, they messed some things up, but it's very admirable, right? In the sense of a lot of the time these guys are trying things that, like, have typically never been done before, or like you haven't seen on like a big stage. And I guess I hold more, again, like grace for that than something like, a wrestler trying a normal move that they typically don't do, like a CM Punk doing a buckshot lariat or a fucking Miz doing kicks, right? I'm like, okay, this just looks like shit. Like, don't, like, operate within your wheelhouse, right? And I think when you're trying to do things like, again, that haven't necessarily been done before, like I expect some roughness around the edges, I guess. And like you said, I mean, you could see how quickly they learned from this match as well in terms of delivering, a comparable match in terms of quality and, like you said, cleaning up some of the spots that just didn't work. So it was like the self-awareness as well of what they did and were able to do afterwards. And agreed. I'm excited to see what happens with Vikingo. He really is, and pretty much like he's probably one of the most like popular wrestlers in the US right now in terms of the larger outside WWE scale. He's a mainstay for GCW now, to where he wrestled in Korakuen Hall with them. He main evented shows in Australia with them. And then he's constantly on AEW programming now and on ROH. And I think whenever his contract is up or whatever happens with him, it will be interesting to see. And then especially though, Taurus, if I'm not mistaken, he was working with Impact. It's sort of just come to an end. And man, I think AEW could use another big guy. I would really pop for a Taurus versus Killswitch match, I think, honestly. I feel like that could be cool.
Another one with the look, that you look for, that could be just a great visual if they put those two together.
Yep.
I'm totally on board with Sonny Taurus. I think that guy's awesome. Again, just a unique guy. You need guys who stand out, not just having the same generic look with all these guys. And I think both of these guys do that. And it was really good. Like you said, and good on the inmates too. I thought the Cage Match Raiders did a mostly good job of rating that match. Then they kind of had a segment where, like you said, it felt like a lot of this was on the fly, where the commentary team just was like, all right, we got matches on the show. Like, let's talk about them. And they brought up some of the card earlier on. That led to the 6-man tag team titles on the line here in the next match. And this was a special match because it featured New Japan's TMDK. Shane Haste, Kosei Fujita, and the bad dude Tito, taking on the Mogul Embassy, Bishop Khan, Toa Leona, and Brian Cage. The Gates of Agony were just in the New Japan World Tag League. You don't have to watch any of that overall. But they were there. They were no doubt there. They almost had them join the House of Torture, but then they were like, no, it was a swerve. We're not in the House of Torture. So they come in here defending their titles. What did you think of this match?
A week removed from it, not much. It definitely was good. I think, they suffered from having to follow Vikingo and Taurus. And if like a trios match is known for everything, it's going to be high intensity, fast paced typically, right? And this was one of two trios matches on the show as well. And the other's trios match, which we'll get into later.
Don't even compare this to that.
No, it's so much like, again, like this has the unfortunate spot of being the second best trios match on a card with two and following Vikingo and Taurus. I like the Mogul Embassy. It was funny when they came out. They are, quite literally the most legitimate ROH champions outside of Athena. Like Eddie had a proving ground match here. It was like 5 minutes. So yeah, Mogul Embassy have always been ride or die for ROH. I fuck with that. I love Prince Nana. I didn't think this match was anything special. It's a treat for the live crowd. I love Bad Dude Tito. He's always fucking fun. Shout out Bad Dude Dylan as well, the alter ego. And then that would be such a cool nickname for you if you get back on the indies.
Really?
Yeah, Bad Dude Dylan.
You picture me a gimmick? Hey, Bad Dude Tito is freaking awesome. I'm a huge fan of his. I think he was one of the standouts of the LA dojo, New Japan Strong, blah, blah, blah. I thought he was one of the best guys that they had. And I really enjoyed him in this match. I always enjoy watching him wrestle, actually. I think he's really good. I would be happy to form a tag team with him if my brain recovers ever enough to wrestle. We will do that for sure. I would, if he wants to. I can't make him be my partner, but I would love to be a part of TMDK as well, hang out with the boys. They are kind of like a group of like dumb jocks almost, like kind of like in New Japan. They're totally. Like. Yeah, they're like the frat brothers or whatever of everyone. But yeah, I was missing Mad Mikey, somebody who's really grown on me in New Japan this year. But I liked Bad Dude. He's awesome. Fujita, love him. Haste, I like well enough. Don't know about this whole twerking deal he's been doing lately, but he's Speaking pretty good. Jocks. Yeah, he's all right, like I said, but sure, I'm not going to judge him too much. The Embassy, Cage, he always takes a lot of grief online, but he's kind of good. Like that's how I always come away from him. And pretty much all of his matches, like, hey, he's kind of good actually. And the Gates of Agony, I always like. The tag league wasn't used to their strengths. I don't think they did a great job. It's not like they were terrible, but they weren't really able to show a lot. But for a beefy six-man team, these three big guys wrecking stuff, I'm all for that. I think they're really good. There was a spot, too, where, the Gates of Agony just came in and just wrecked Fujita. It was really good coming in there. There was a spot, too, where Cage was flying in. He was doing, like, the rolling lariat, and Tito just, like, picked him up and hit a Death Valley driver on him. It was badass. I was into it. So shout out to the Bad Dude, TMDK. Both these teams are good. But ultimately, the problem with this match is it's kind of like the opposite of the first match. Like, nothing went wrong in this match, but they didn't try to make it anything more than what it was, which is ultimately, like, this is easily a TV match. This is not a pay-per-view spectacle at all. It was a solid 6-man match, that 3-star level, but it wasn't special ultimately. But I enjoyed watching it for what it was. I thought it was a good match.
Yeah, no, completely agree. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but, with the spot they were on the card, I think that they were able to maintain the sort of pace. And then again, like, even 3 stars, like, I'm not going to complain about that.
No, not the second match on the card. It's not like this was the main event. It was, and like you said, there was another match that I definitely rated higher than 3 coming up. But this was a solid match. Yeah, maybe for the titles you might want a little bit more, action, but for just a good, solid mid-card match, you can't complain about this, in my opinion.
No, and when Brian Cage was first put together with like the embassy, I think everyone saw it. When this new Ring of Honor resurgence began, everyone really saw it as like this sort of like half-assed, like okay, whatever. But man, this has helped Cage more than anything else.
Yeah,
he has become a very, like we're talking about with Vikingo, a very prominent utility player as well. Anytime you need to get a big guy over or just someone like Cage can really work like your big man match or even your high flyer as well. So like, dude, he legit, like, I don't know. Again, the 6-man champions, they ride or die.
absolutely. 6-man champions, good. We've given these guys all the thumbs up. A match well done. I might even bump it up to 3.25, just to be nice here. You get them up. Good match. I wish they'd done a little bit more. But then we get into this next match, and they play the hype video for this. So from how I understand it, I did see there's a clip online of them doing their contract signing for this match. And how I understand this storyline is that basically Tony Nese is annoying, and they had one match, and screw it, we're going to the I Quit match. It's like, this is kind of something that always irks me. An I Quit match that isn't really properly built to, because that to me should be a devastating blood feud. And there's nothing in this feud that constitutes these guys hating each other to that much they want to end their careers, which to me is what an I Quit match should signify. That's a problem in a lot of wrestling, not just this feud, but that was automatically a negative mark here for this I Quit match at the end of the day. And so what did you think of this I Quit match between Tony Nese and Ethan Page here? And they also had, again, something we both want to complain about. Early on, they mentioned that Mark Sterling, who's Tony Nese's manager, he was handcuffed to Mark Henry. That was a stipulation, so he couldn't interfere. And wouldn't you know it, somehow, some way, he found a way to interfere anyway.
Classic pro wrestling. Okay, I kind of disagree on the match stipulation stuff. Like, I totally agree with it being like a blood feud, like that last man standing shit, whatever. Like, I want to kill you. The I Quit here almost felt like more metaphorical in the sense of, the story, like you said, is like Tony Nese is like, Ethan Page, you're out of shape. You're bullshit, dude. And then Ethan Page is like, I'm going to get in the best fucking shape of my life and I'm going to win gold for my daughter. So in the case of the I Quit, it felt like Tony is so up his own ass. He's like, I would never say those two words. He doesn't even like factor in the actual like impact of this match and what can happen because he's just like a bully. And then for Page, it felt like whenever Nese was trying to get him to say I quit, he's not just saying it in this match, but to his own workout progress to get himself in the best shape of his life, to win the gold for his daughter. Like, it felt like when Page was being asked to say I quit, it was in that sort of meta narrative of his career and where he currently is, right? And that's to say I fucking hate I Quit matches still. I don't like I Quit matches, but I will I liked the use of it here, but man, they're not good matches. Like, I think if you're going to do I Quit, like if you're asking them to quit within the first couple minutes, like, no.
Oh, I hate that. Yeah, totally.
You're going to be in for a long fucking match. Like, if I'm a character, right? If I'm a pro wrestler, I'm going to be like, dude, until this guy is like fucking on the ground, like bleeding, I'm going to be like, you quit? He's like, yeah, I quit. But it's very like, it's like the Texas death, right? Where it's like they have to count to 10 or whatever.
Yeah, same
like,
deal, yeah.
I feel like Swerve and Page did it really smart where they weren't doing those counts at the beginning, really. Like, you build up to those with brutality. And here it was, it's like a song, right? If you begin a song with a breakdown, what are you breaking down? So if you're going to introduce the I quit, like actual interactions in the beginning of the match, it's like you've kind of just skirted past everything else that goes there, right? I think of like Kodaka and Takeda, of Miyamoto and Sasaki from fucking 2007, where it's like the first 10 minutes of the death match doesn't even involve glass. It's them just fucking wrestling, like, you got to build to it. I did not think they built up to it here. The Sterling stuff definitely took me out as well. Like, dude, Mark Sterling he feels like the indie version of Johnny Ace people power. Dude has the biggest away heat. I do not fucking care for him. I'm very happy he's been relegated to ROH at least, rather than Dynamite, because there was a point where it was like, it seemed like he was representing 8 different people, and it was just fucking annoying, dude. So, like, I think this match suffered from a lot, but the main strength was the character work. I think that Paige and Nice both succeeded in the character work, and I liked, again, the way that they approached the I quit. But other than that, I'd give this like maybe a 2.5. Not offensively bad, but I can't say it's anything better than average. Probably, honestly, like 2.25, just because of the Sterling thing was so fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. That's another issue, too, is that, like, the Sterling stuff to me was like, this stuff was tired probably in the 80s. Like, some of the stuff there. I mean, you had the white powder in here. It's like, are we really doing that now in 2023 in this ultra, supposedly, again, an I quit match should be a serious stipulation. And to be fair, I will give the wrestlers credit for this. I agree with what you said about the character work in the match. And I think the effort in this match was very high from both men. You saw a big blade job here, like with blood and all that stuff. And I still can't help but think, this storyline, I mean, I'm not pro fat shaming at all. Like, that's a terrible thing and something offensive. But is it really worth trying to bloody this man in his career over? I don't know if I would go that far overall. Like, this is a reason to throw hands, surely. But to try and drop a weight, like a bench press weight on him or whatever, I don't know. Like, I think that was a little much for this feud. And then you even had the old, the former friend come out to save him with Scorpio Sky come in.
I liked that, actually. I like them reuniting Men of the Year. I think that
I like that too.
They could be a really fucking good bounce back Ring of Honor tag team champions. And real quick, I wanted to say, because you made a great point as well, they both worked their ass off. And I genuinely think if you just switched I quit to no DQ, this match, their work would have shown through, because the biggest negatives here was the match stipulation and then the match stipulation caveat of Sterling, and just both of those not working. And that's unfortunately the constraints they had. But yeah, no, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're all right. Like, I totally agree with you. Like every point you said. And the Sterling stuff, it would have been better because you would have ideally built that to a big pop, which would be Mark Henry knocking somebody out, whether it was Sterling or Nice. But instead, it's like he just got him out, and that was it. Like, what was the point of Mark Henry being involved in the early going if he was just going to escape and nothing was going to come of it? Or you could have, they wanted to have the surprise pop with Sky coming out, but still, and I do agree with you totally. I like the Men of the Year as a team. Now reuniting, I think that's a good place for both of them. Then they come in. There was a spot too in the match I noted where they had they set up all these chairs in the ring, and Nice tried to hit him with a Frankensteiner onto them, and he did it, but he flew over the chairs on there. So you put all this effort into building the spot. And even the commentators, which is a great job, again, to piggyback your point earlier, Riccoboni and Caprice are freaking great. They're the best commentary team of any company, and they've added to every one of the Ring of Honor shows that they've been on, in my opinion. I think they've done a great job, and they did throughout the show. They didn't even attempt to try and sell that. They were like, that didn't hit him at all, like the chairs, like, which is very, very funny overall. And again, I agree with what you said. If it was a no DQ match, I could have vibed with that, and the match would have been better, and you might have been able to avoid some of this. But yeah, go on.
Just imagine taking out all of those like quit moments, because everything else is no DQ, and I just think that would have, you probably would have taken 5 minutes out. And let's go. And to speak as well, like real quick, going back to the commentary, I thought when Caprice Coleman first started, he really struggled. And I think it speaks to the natural ability of Riccaboni and how he's really able to pair up with anyone who you put him with. He's very personable, very welcoming, and the chemistry they now have and the confidence that Coleman has, they're both very unique in terms of, I think it was when we were watching the West Coast Pro Show and talking about the commentary on there, right? Commentary can feel very performative. Where it's like, I'm going to do what I think I'm supposed to do when something happens. But Coleman and Riccaboni always respond to things within what makes sense for them and what also feels genuine and honest. And I really, really appreciate that. And, the icing on the cake is just, they're absolutely like, I'm trying to think of the word here, but just like unmatched love and knowledge of Ring of Honor,
Yeah, totally agree. But yeah, man, I always respect the commentary. It's such a hard job. I did guest commentary 3 times in my career, really 2, because one time I sat there and said nothing. That was the whole gimmick. I was just telling a story in my face. I said like 2 words at the end because I was an emo guy at the end. But 2 other times, that's different as a wrestler. If you're on guest commentary, you're really getting yourself over and the storyline, like you and your opponent. But when you're the commentator, you have to get the whole show over. Like every match, you have to know what you're talking about. You can't screw up, you can't even screw up a move name, or else everyone will call you on it. Let alone, again, like sometimes like the Frankensteiner spot I mentioned before, where if they tried to, oh my God, the chairs, like that would have ruined their credibility, and everyone would have been like, oh, come on. We've seen that in wrestling, but plenty of times where a move won't connect and they'll still sell it on commentary. That makes you lose credibility. So it's a really hard job. And Ian and Caprice, I think, both do a great job. I think Caprice has done a great job in his role as well. But Ian, like you said, total pro on commentary. Love all of his work overall. Again, another part that I didn't like, I think it would have been better, like you said, with a no DQ. I would have eliminated all of the Surly stuff until maybe one spot at the end where he comes in. Maybe he comes in and throws the powder, and it looks like Nice is about to win, and then Sky comes out and drags him to the back. So you get one big spot, you get the surprise without the dumb stuff, no I quit spots. And also a spot that I didn't like, with the weight plate that I was talking about, how heavy was this thing? Did they ever say how many pounds this was? Because if you bash somebody that, especially a manager, this should be the end of his career, pretty much. Like, if you're going to hit him in the head with a weight plate and it's a manager, we should never – and he didn't even do that. He hit his move on him. He hit the Ego's Edge after he hit him with the weight plate as well. The stuff with the handcuffs was kind of contrived by Paige. And I know him saying, fuck you, like when they asked him to quit, was supposed to be this big moment. And it worked for the crowd, obviously. To me, it was just kind of very cheesy. And like that's kind of how I described this match. The effort was high. There was some really good wrestling. I think if these 2 guys, especially Nice, I think is kind of underrated as a wrestler. I think he's a really good talent. Paige, I think, is basically average. But here he was in a situation where he got to display all of his character work. He had the big blade job. They did some crazy moves. He did the dive through the middle ropes and hitting it into the cutter through the 2 tables and stuff. So you had your big spots. The effort was there. I settled in on 3 stars. I think the match was very disjointed. They had a million ideas, and they were probably happy with it afterwards. But to me, I kind of came away not knowing what to make of it. Was it... And I was like, because sometimes by the end of it, I thought you could argue this was a 2-star match, or it could be a below average match or a great match. So I just kind of settled in the middle with the 3 stars. I still liked it a little better than you, but I respected the effort. There was too much dumb stuff that held it back, however, and I think it would have been better if they just made it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. Like sometimes, because this was anything but simple with everything going on in the match and everything they want. And they tried to accomplish so many things that I don't think anything. Well, I mean, there was a couple of things that really came out, and the Sky and Paige reunion was really cool. But everything else, I don't think anything was quite as good as it could have been if they had focused on less.
Yeah,
so
I think you nailed it.
Yeah, and it's nice that they did have a feud somewhat. Again, I just think I Quit was a step too far, and I definitely think bashing somebody's head in with the weight plate was too hard.
I looked it up. The weight plate was not as heavy as the stairs used in tables, ladders, chairs, and stairs. So They may be back from the injury.
Okay, cool. What was this, a 10-pound weight, 20-pound? Like, that's not even that impressive.
I have no clue.
It should have been 100 pounds on there. But anyway, next match, Nyla Rose versus Vert Vixen. What did the inmates give that last match to? Let me look at that score here.
Give it a 7.26, and then Meltzer gave it a 4 1/4.
Yeah, Meltzer really liked that match. Well, Meltzer always gives love to plunder matches. Like, he's given a lot to Edge and Orton over the years, so that's not that surprising. 20 minutes, there too. It felt longer, but still, 7.26, not outrageous. I probably went a little lower on it, and you definitely did. The 6-man tag, 6.38. That's pretty fair. Rose and Vert, not even 5 minutes, not even 3 minutes, so you can't give a rating. But to me, it was a squash match. Like, I don't have any real thoughts on it.
No, this, and then they had Taya do a squash as well, which both of these matches made me think Billie was winning, that they were building up monsters for Billie.
Me too, yeah.
Yep. And so I was very surprised by the end result. But again, Athena clearly needs new opponents, and she might be turning like kind of your, Adam Cole heel babyface or scumbag, MJF champ, whatever, just in terms of being that tweener. So bringing in a Taya and a Nyla, I think those could be great matchups on paper, and neither are really doing anything right now in AEW. We were talking about, or you were saying Paige earlier, right? Pretty average. And I agree with that. I think he has shown much better stuff off in his Evolve run, and even in his Impact run, his tag champs with Alexander, they're called like the North or whatever.
Yeah, the North. Yeah, they were a great team. Like, that's fair.
Monster something.
Yeah, Monster Machine, something like that.
Oh man, yeah. But like Paige really reminds me of a Drew McIntyre in the sense of when he was brought into AEW, like this was years ago, right?
Monster Mafia.
Monster Mafia, yeah. He had a lot of hype because it was kind of like a coup of him coming over from Impact, right? And like he definitely had hype coming behind him because, this is back when the big AEW signings were Eddie Kingston or Matt Hardy, which, isn't to disparage, but now it's Edge, Bryan Danielson, right? The names have gotten much bigger. And I feel like Paige just never found his footing, much like, McIntyre in his first run. So I like that he's in ROH and he's trying to, really improve himself. Like, I admire the fuck out of that, and I really hope he's able to find that success.
He came across. I just want to say real quick on that. I'll talk about it after the show, but on the post-show scrum, he really has a likable energy to him. Like, while watching him in the press conference, you could tell. He's got a pretty good personality, even on the mic. I like him on the mic well enough, like on promos. In the ring, I've never been super impressed by him. I think a tag team is his best spot personally, especially with a guy like Alexander, who is a great wrestler. I thought that they were a really good team. You have the talker who can hold his own. He's not bad at all in the ring. And in a plunder match, I think that's his thing, because in Evolve, you had the stuff with Darby, which was just insanity personified pretty much. And he could do plunder stuff and crazy spots and really get the most out of himself. And like you said, maybe with this Ring of Honor run, maybe you'll see improvements with that as well. So yeah, shout out to Ethan Page. Even though, again, the match was disjointed, they tried so many things, but it wasn't the fault of the performers, either him or Nice. And Nice, somebody I think is underrated personally. But yeah, by the way, too, I like Vert Vixen, by the way. I think that's somebody they should give a bigger spot to, even though she just got squashed here.
Hey, Defy Women's Champion. Yeah, Defy used to be my local promotion. I'm a big Vert fan. It was cool to see her get some shine in Tokyo Joshi earlier this year as well. If I'm not mistaken, I think she works in video games as well. So double shout out, Vert.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you can relate to that very much. Yeah, her gimmick in Women of Wrestling is like Glitch the Gamer. So she brings her work into her indie run here, coming in. I think she's into cosplay and video games and all that stuff as well. But I like her as a wrestler well enough as well. So I think she's somebody you could really go somewhere with if they wanted to give her a spot. But Nyla's another one. Much like Ethan in the press conference. If you look at Nyla on Twitter, she's really like amusing, like very entertaining personality and stuff like that. Now it doesn't really fit with her monster type of gimmick they had for her as a heel, but as a fun, funny type of person, I think Nyla could get over as a babyface overall. But the match unfortunately was just a squash, more or less. They had the TV title, and the whole deal with that was on AEW. Joe was like, I don't want this. And so he laid down the TV title, and he's like, I got bigger fish to fry. I'm going after the AEW title. And so now we need a new TV champion, and we do the survival of the fittest. A gimmick from the original Ring of Honor, like the old days, we gave and all that stuff. They're bringing in. So the rules of this were, 6 people were in this match. And listen to this lineup they formulated here. Lee Moriarty, Lee Johnson, no more Lees, only those 2. Commander, Dalton Castle, Brian Keith, and Kyle Fletcher. And every match, it was an elimination match, pretty much. And the last one standing is the winner. First of all, can we shout out Brian Keith?
Dude, yes.
Yeah, like
local wrestling, New Texas Pro Champion. That's my fucking guy, dude. He had a match. He dropped on my radar during some New Texas stuff, and then it was when GCW was running Texas. And it was like him versus AJ Gray, and it was the best AJ Gray match I've ever seen. And they just did a fucking 20-minute Kings Road ass beater, and I was like, who is this guy? I need to watch all of his work. Then I started watching all of his matches on IWTV. You can catch some really good shit in the Time Bomb Pro Show, Violence is Forever, where you had Guarini versus Suzuki. You also have Keith versus Kevin Koo in an unreal match. This guy, I think right now is the best dude on the indies. He's going to DDT now. His gimmick is awesome. The bounty hunter dude, like he is one of those sort of like out there characters that's able to really embed himself though in any environment. He wrestled on the pre-show against Jack Cartwheel in a good match, and then dude, he came on here in his home fucking state, and he lasted until what he was he was the last penultimate elimination. So I mean, he was over his shit, and man, fighting Danielson, everything, like I see this guy's stock just increasing through the roof over time. If you look at like the actual free agents on the indies with like true fucking in-ring quality, like it's hard to think of someone above Keith right now. That's my rant.
Brian Keith's awesome. And man, we heard Still Tippin' on TV in 2023 because of this man, because of his theme song, which, how could you not love that at the end of the day? Like, shout out Paul Wall for that. Shout out Slim Thug, too. I was big into the H-Town rap scene at that time. So we get Mike Jones Still Tipping on there.
Shout out Mike Jones.
Yeah, all of them, all the H-Town guys. Chameleonaire, Lil Flip. I loved all those guys back in the day. UGK. But Brian Keith, man, that brother freaking rules in the ring. Kyle Fletcher, amazing guy. Commander, he's an interesting dude too, because he's like this high flying guy, but he's like he's another guy they just kind of throw in whenever they need an extra guy. They're like, oh, put Commander in there. Lee Moriarty, a technical guy, got some swag to him. Lee Johnson, young guy in the come up. Dalton Castle, he's a veteran of Ring of Honor. It's all right. I'm not a big fan of his these days, especially, but he came in the match, utilized his charisma. They got him out kind of early. But Still, this was a good ass match, man. I like this a lot. I was a little bit surprised that they went with Fletcher so early. I thought Keith was going to win it. And when he got eliminated, I was really surprised that it came down to Fletcher and Commander at the end. Because I think Keith has the look and everything you want, the experience, and I thought he would be a great guy. Hey, he's kind of new. Put the title on him right away. Let's see how far we can go with him. Instead, they go with Fletcher, who's like off and on in the Don Callis geek club that he's formulating, and he's doing his thing. Promos, he has a long way to go. Like him on the mic is not getting it done at all. With Kyle Fletch, but in the ring, he's a special talent. A lot of stuff happened here. The fans loved Castle early on. They got him out right away, pretty much. Moriarty, they gave a little bit too early on. He's a guy that I think has a lot of upside. He's been hanging back because you have guys like Yuta, Danny Garcia. He's of that vein of like a technical guy, but he's got charisma to him too. And I think they've done a great job of AEW and really utilizing Yuta and Garcia and helping them grow. But hey, they haven't given Moriarty the same, but I think he's got the same level of upside as those guys overall. So it was good to see him get an elimination. Didn't get the win. In the end, it came down to Commander and Fletcher. And Commander looked good. He came in with that wild, like leaping into the Canadian Destroyer deal. They were flying back and forth with 450s. And then Fletcher got the big tombstone pile driver to get the win here. So I really liked this match. I thought it put Fletcher over well. It would have put over either of them well. Like if Commander had won, if Brian Keith had won, whoever had won, it was going to make them look good because you go through the 6-man elimination match. It makes it feel like you earned this title. And I really like that part of this. I really like this stipulation, even though it's not like a gimmick, but it's a good stipulation. Elimination match, 6 men, you come out, you look like you did something by winning this title. And hopefully we see that more. What'd you think?
Dude, these guys wrestled the match of their fucking lives. Like
This was fire. I love this match.
This was remarkable. I thought that this absolutely recaptured the Kingo Toru standard, which was really nice. Like, I mean, I think that there, like any card, right? There's peaks and dives, and the way that they had their peaks here. The next one I would say was the fight to honor Jay Briscoe. But dude, the highs on this show are some of the highest highs of the year.
Yeah.
I would give this 4 3/4. Like this really.
You love this match, brother. Yeah.
It reminded me of like an early on elimination chamber where for me, I thought it was for sure Castle winning. So when Lee Moriarty eliminated Dalton Castle, like, dude, I lit up with excitement. I was like, I have no fucking clue who's winning. And, the closer it got to Fletcher, I was like, no, not him. But it was never out of like a Miz sense, right? Like, not this fucking guy. It was like, not him. He's a bastard. But, also like Aussie Open has maybe had one of the best years for a tag team in terms of like their Royal Quest match with FTR or whatever being called amazing. But like they both have had really bad injuries this year, right? Like Fletcher got hurt got hurt early on, so Davis was in.
Yeah, the Davis got hurt.
The New Japan Cup, and he made it to the fucking semifinals and fought Ospreay. And then they reteam, sign with AEW, capture gold. They wrestle on Wembley, even though it wasn't the best thing. And then Davis gets hurt, and now Fletcher's a fucking singles star or singles champion. Like with tag teams, you never really see the guys stand on their own 2 feet so well and so quickly as these two guys have. And I think they've both absolutely like proved their worth and increased their stock this year. I'm looking at the cage match results right now, and Fletcher eliminated Keith at 16:52, which means that Fletcher and Commander wrestled almost 10 minutes after.
And they had their own match after.
Dude, and that 10 minutes was one long finishing sequence that never took the fucking foot off the gas. Like I said, Commander really, we talk about him as a we'll throw him in guy, but dude, he wrestled the fucking match of his life here. I could not believe it. Fletcher being the base for him, and Fletcher is a crazy bumper. Those super tombstones, like this was peak PWG right here. I loved Lee Moriarty getting 2 eliminations. Like seeing him get some shine was really nice. I'm a big Lee fan.
Yeah, me too.
And dude, even and then Keith getting an elimination still as an unsigned talent is huge. And then Fletcher getting those last 2, you know, I thought getting the pin on Keith perfectly set up this third act of Fletcher being the big bastard and Commander being the ultimate underdog.
Good point.
And just like they had, you know, with the Texas crowd, they were really putting over Commander. And then also like Fletcher came out in some new looking gear and paint that kind of reminded me of, you know, Devitt. So I thought that was interesting as well to get that, you know, quiet character progression as well. So, dude, I really have nothing but positive things to say about this. This is fucking awesome.
Yeah, totally agree. I thought it started off not like it was good, but it wasn't like spectacularly great until after Castle got eliminated. Especially with the way he got eliminated was like this stupid Johnny TV deal that they had. And the crowd booed that so much that got the most heat when Castle got eliminated the whole match. But once that happened, they got all that out of the way. I mean, the final 4 were just freaking awesome. They killed it. And yeah, like you said, Keith getting the elimination was freaking cool. Lee Moriarty got the other eliminations early on. Lee Johnson, again, he's like the least established of these guys, but I like him well enough. I think he's got a good future to him as well. I like what I see whenever I see Lee Johnson wrestle. These guys are doing some big things here. And Fletcher, like you said, good point. The more I like it because it got him away from like, oh, here's this like junior Will Ospreay that we have here, which is kind of what he was doing before. Getting away from that, I think, is a great move for his career. And like you said, it was more of a Devitt, and maybe he could grow into it, make his own unique thing later as we go along. But I like the tribute. I like the way he did it here. And when he wrestles, damn, this guy has got a lot of talent. Fletcher deserves it. Again, I would have went with Keith, but that doesn't mean anything's wrong with Fletcher at all, or even Commander if he'd won. Like I thought he did a great job as well. It would be nice to see one of these utility guys actually like get a big win, like a big title, just to make them mean a little bit more. But still, Fletcher, you know they've got big plans for him. With Ospreay coming in, I bet that there's people in that company that see Fletcher and are like, damn, this guy could be a main event talent one day for us. Like it'd be in big matches with Omega.
He's young too.
Yeah, exactly.
Young. And then I also wanted to shout out, they had those promos before the match. Where it was like that sort of collision style. You know, Fletcher's like, I'm going to bring back gold to the Don Callis family. You know, Dalton Castle gives a fucking amazing promo. I really, really liked that as well. I thought it was like the perfect opening slate. And yeah, also agreed. I forgot about the Johnny TV stuff actually. So that definitely was a slow opening there. But, and you know, when Dalton got eliminated, it almost felt not like a heel moment, but almost an audience rejecting what was happening.
Yeah.
A Danielson getting eliminated from the Rumble or a Rey Mysterio coming out, right? And I mean, that's pretty much the worst fucking thing is when the crowd turns on the actual product. And dude, the way they got this crowd back into the match almost immediately is such a testament to just the quality again. This at 26 minutes, can't believe it. You know. Oh,
and and what you said at the end with them being 10 minutes, I didn't even think about that. I would have never have guessed that. Like it's like the opposite of that the I Quit match where I thought it was longer than it was. If you had said that was a 3-minute finishing sequence, dude, I would have believed you. Yeah,
yes. You know, they got so much shit in, and it was like the amount of times I thought it was over too. Like, dude, so many great false finishes, and like I've never seen Commander and Fletcher work together before. But dude, like that, it felt like they've wrestled 100 times before. They were just crisp. So yeah, hyped as hell on that.
Yeah, this was a fantastic match. I gave it 4 1/4, so a little lower than you, but still a great match overall. And the inmates agreed 8.29, the high mark of the show so far. And it deserves it. That was a great match. Big win for Kyle. And like you said, he's so young. This is a big vote of confidence for him. And like I said, I could easily see them wanting to make this guy a main event player one day. Although I think he's still got a ways to go on the mic, as I said earlier, before we get there. But still, in ring, he's got what it takes for sure. Good stuff there for all of them. Up next, we had that amazing match here. And like you said, there's some peaks and valleys sometimes. So they got off of that, and they moved to the complete opposite of this insane Fletcher and Commander match with a pure rules match. Wheeler Yuta defending the title against Tom Lawler. Filthy Tom getting a shot here in Ring of Honor. He seems like a guy who they flirted with stuff before. He's been in all these places, definitely most prominently New Japan Strong, also MLW as well. But he's had his spots here and there in Ring of Honor and AEW, but he's never really gotten a big run here. And here he gets the title match here, the pure title match. But they're trying to make Yuta like the heel pure champion here, which kind of goes against like a lot of what he did on AEW at first. Then they went full heel with BCC, and now they're kind of in this ambiguous, mostly babyface state of BCC. But he is being the little shit, as Bryan Danielson called him before here in this match, trying to do the heel stuff. They had a spot early on where he did like, he gave a punch behind the ref's back, but then when Filthy Tom got him back, the ref turned around and saw it. Again, a lot of this stuff is very basic stuff that was kind of played out 20, 30 years ago, in my opinion. But still, it was well done, I would say. And then they did a thing where the ending was so messed up, where he did the seatbelt clutch, but Filthy Tom was like clearly his shoulders were up, and he was in the ropes. So like all of this got messed up. And then they made Hook look like a geek afterwards, and he just came out and Yuta clocked him and knocked him out. Like what? I don't know. I thought this was kind of disappointing because when you see these names on paper, you expect a great match, and I don't think we got that.
So this was admittedly the hashtag Nello went out to get food match of the pay-per-view.
Yeah, she texted me that.
I needed a burger and a cigarette after the survival of the fittest. No, I didn't need a cigarette, but yeah, I went out to get food. Honestly, I think that you could have flipped this match with Keith Lee and Shane Taylor. In terms of following survival of the fittest, very hard to go from a 6-man elimination to a pure rules match. Lee and Shane Taylor is an ROH match that has so much ROH history. I think it would have been much easier to segue into that because you could have pivoted from in-ring insanity to deep storytelling versus just the complete opposite in-ring style. I can't comment on anything in ring, unfortunately. I just straight up did not see this match. I'm happy Tom Lawler got on the show. I mean, got moved from... He was supposed to face Cole on Forbidden Door or something got removed.
Yeah, that's right.
He was supposed to be on fucking another show as well and got removed like last minute as well, right? Wembley or I can't remember, something else, but he was supposed to be on it again and it got removed again. So third time's the charm. Like, dude, I love Filthy Tom. I hope that he is able to find a spot here. He's had some truly remarkable matches, but I feel like he's yet to really, outside of New Japan Strong, which, wasn't the exposure level that I quite hoped for. And I'm not going to pretend that I watched the whole Team Filthy reign. But I feel like he's yet to really find that prime spot for himself. He's been an MLW mainstay. Shout out Filthy Island from the pandemic era. But yeah, I'm waiting for Tom to hit his stride,
Yeah, I would have liked this match a lot better if the finish hadn't have been so bad, in my opinion. And the post-match, I didn't think it accomplished anything. And I like these guys. Yuta is like one of my guys in AEW. I always enjoy him. I don't know if he's the best choice for, like, the bad guy pure champion overall. Like, he's better. Like, I thought the best we saw of him when he was the the underdog who's bloodied, fighting Bryan and Moxley. Like, that was amazing stuff. I don't think as a heel he really works as well personally going in, but I also don't. I'm happy that Filthy Tom got the spot. Don't get me wrong, but their whole story has been about him and Hook. This is Final Battle. Play off your storyline. Like, pay it off on the biggest show. Like, put some care into your biggest show. Again, that's the only thing I wanted. Instead, he came in. They messed up the finish. He's going after Filthy Tom again, about to beat the hell out of him. Hook comes in. Yuta drops him and just walks off with the title. And it's like, what did that serve? You just made Hook look goofy.
No, I agree. Like, it's weird to have the whole thing going on with the title that literally has pure in the name. Sort of reminds me of like Jericho when he was like, I'm the least honorable Ring of Honor champion.
And even back in the old day, like the original pure title, you had stuff like Nigel with the freaking curling iron, like as his main weapon. So he was like clearly the heat of that was, this is the pure title. This is about real graps. And then we have the champion who's like the ultimate sports entertainment dickhead using a ridiculous iron as a weapon.
Dude, yeah, and like for Yuta, for me, it almost feels like he was that underdog, then he got beat down to shit, and like if we're doing that the alignment thing, right? Like Claudio would be neutral evil, Danielson is lawful evil. I would say Moxley is like chaotic neutral, and then Yuta now is straight up chaotic evil, where it's like he can do whatever he wants, because if you fuck with him, you literally have Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, and Jon Moxley behind him. Yeah. He's absolutely, I don't remember if it was this year, but if it was this year, it's a strong contender for my promo of the year. But him saying, I'm on the 96 Bulls, baby, I think is the perfect defining thing for him, where he's like, he knows who he's with and he knows what he's able to get away with as a result. And dude, he has just stopped fucking caring. Like, he is the biggest chicken shit. I love it. But I agree. It's weird. And this pure title thing, the whole ROH pure versus FTW is very strange, because it's like, going to be done under FTW rules. This just makes me think that Hook's probably leaving the company, or maybe going to do something else. I don't know. Like, I've heard rumors that, Taz wants him to go to NXT. I have no fucking clue if that's true. But I also think that Hook might be someone who, he has never really gotten that big shine yet in AEW. He's had some cool matches and stuff with Bronson, at the Grand Slam and shit. But I think he is like the opposite Lexus King. I think if he went to NXT, he could become very big in terms of that. Like, I think some of these younger guys, like, it's really like your Garcia, your Moriarty, your Yutas. I think these guys are very fit for AEW. Swerve's right.
Yeah, I agree.
Building the future there. But then your people who are more MJF. Jesus, who was I just fucking talking about? Oh, Hook.
Yeah.
God, who's the other guy? Sammy Guevara. I think these are all dudes who would get over more with WWE audiences, and I think that they would just do better in their system. Because right now it's like there are other versions of them in the company already that I think are outclassing them, whether it's a Christian versus MJF or a, like, who's your silent badass type in comparison to a Hook, like, I don't know, but these guys are not getting the exposure they need, I think, to properly develop, I should say.
And that's the problem. I think that's where I'm at. I think
Jade as well.
Yeah, and that's who I was going to compare him to. Like, because when Hook came in, he was super over with the audience. Like, everybody went crazy for him. You had the Send Hook memes coming out. Like, he was super popular. The problem is like Jade, who also came in and had a great debut, and everyone loved her look and all that. Then you just have Hook. He should be having big matches all the time, even if they're not televised. Like, just working with different people, trying to grow. Instead, they constantly have him doing squash matches that make him look cool to a certain extent. You had the tag match with Action Bronson, like you said, and that's great. But you're not giving him a chance to develop here, which is what they need to be doing. This should have been a 15-minute match with Yuta where they do what they need to do, and maybe Hook isn't that great at some of this Pure Rule stuff, but that's okay because he's still early on. It's in Ring of Honor. You can afford to let him slip up a little bit and then use that to grow to where hopefully in a year or two you can push him up and he's ready finally, because he's not ready right now. And they haven't done a good job of utilizing him. And that initial surge of popularity that Hook had, it went down and lower and lower and lower. They haven't been able to maintain it because of them more than anything wrong with him per se. It's just they're not giving him a chance to develop properly, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, and again, it's totally in the name of development. I would say Wardlow's another one. These are guys who I think it's just the whole being in a system that is fully concentrated on developing you versus TV, right? AEW is not a developmental system. They're a main roster fucking television, right? And I don't think that you will get the same and necessary reps in a Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor feels way more useful for seasoned talents like an Ethan Page and Athena to try and find that sort of career resurgence, right? And yeah, I don't know. I would like to see these people in NXT, honestly. I think especially on the CW, dude. Hook, are you fucking kidding me?
He'd be perfect for that.
Yeah, and it's nothing anti-AEW. It's just that, dude, we have so many people on all these shows, and there are shows like NXT where they could use some better new people, and there are shows like AEW where they have way too many fucking people, even with these
absolutely
shows
agree.
Now. But yeah, and now we can talk about the match that I unfortunately got back in time for: Shane Taylor versus Keith Lee.
Yeah. So that ended, and they told a little bit of a story. I like that they at least attempted to add some backstory to this, where Shane Taylor's pissed because they were riding high in Ring of Honor. They were a tag team. They were best friends, and everything was great. And then Keith Lee went to WWE and left Taylor on his own. And he's like, man, this sucks. I mean, this story should have been told like a year ago when Keith Lee first came in, but whatever. Overall, he waited a whole year to get revenge, and now he is. But they come in here and they do a spot where, and this is like a typical big guy type of match. They do some good stuff here, and then Lee Moriarty comes in to try to side with Taylor, pretty much. Keith Lee hit a big power bomb on Moriarty. Taylor used that distraction to get the edge there, and he hits the big Canadian Destroyer off the top, which was incredible coming in. But then, of course, it kind of gets no-sold a little bit. Keith's back up, hits the Big Bang for the win. This has a low rating on Cage Match for 4.81, and it seems like you were not impressed either. But I'll let you say your piece here first.
Okay, I'll say this first, but I think Cage Match has a pretty nasty bias towards Shane Taylor, just in general for some reason. Admittedly, I'm not a big Shane Taylor fan.
You're on their side.
No, well, I liked him more in Ring of Honor before it came under Tony Khan. I thought he was way more interesting. Shane Taylor Enterprises.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
when he was
right
TV champion, I thought he was an even better in-ring performer. Going back to the story, it was Shane Taylor and one other guy. Maybe his name was Darius something. I can't fucking remember. I feel really bad. And they fought Swerve in Our Glory on Final Battle, right? And it was like no one expected it to be that good. It was like a pretty damn good match. And then the whole story was Shane Taylor's mad at Keith Lee for this. And I'm like, dude, you spent a whole other year of your career just fucking being pissed off at Keith Lee. And, it's one of those things where I think it's very strange, right? Because Keith Lee.
Oh, you're talking about JD Griffey.
JD Griffey.
I was so impressed by him, in that match. Yeah. I was like, man, where's he at? Now.
He was like, God, for some reason I feel like he wrestled barefoot, kind of like Muay Thai outfit or whatever. But
he was freaking cool. Yeah, I liked him a lot. And that was the first time I ever saw him. Yeah, JD Griffey, where is that brother at? He needs to be on Ring of Honor.
That's why I was fucking confused when Lee Moriarty came out. I was like, did they get rid of the other guy? But Yeah, I did not like the Moriarty interference. This
No,
match
that's where
really
things went south.
suffered,
Yeah.
I thought, from identity. Like, it didn't know if it wanted to be a big man match. It didn't know if it wanted to be a Keith Lee, Dijak, Bola match. And I think Shane Taylor's offense is so goddamn limited right now, where it's going to be elbow smash, shoulder tackle. Like, it's just the same shit. And I think that, especially after the Samoa Joe match, what is there to invest in Shane Taylor, right? He's coming in as like this sort of pseudo babyface. I don't really know. Keith Lee doesn't really seem to have much presence here other than I pissed off Shane Taylor years ago. And Shane Taylor comes in, he like kisses his children at ringside. He's there.
Yeah.
He's the hometown guy. And it's like, okay, but you're telling me that you're pissed off at this guy for 7 fucking years because he got a job offer that offered more money and he was able to go and he had to leave then in order to accept it. Like, that's selfish. Like, dude, being upset is absolutely valid, but if you're going to hold on to that grudge, what that shows me is an inability to grow. That need to move forward was not expressed in this match. Keith Lee getting a clean ass pin over Shane Taylor after interference. Like, dude, this guy spent how many years being pissed off as Keith Lee and he lost the singles match. For me, I'm like, this feels like Shane Taylor is done wrestling. I don't see how this like Keith Lee's not going to stay in Ring of Honor. Shane Taylor's not going to go to the main to Dynamite or AEW. So I'm like, what does this do for Shane Taylor? They basically just had an outside guy and just beat him and his entire character and everything he's about. So what's next? I thought Lee Moriarty walked out of this night looking better than Taylor did. And I think it's just all of that really, again, like, is Shane Taylor the good guy or not? He comes out, he kisses his kids ringside, but then again, he interferes. Like, nothing really makes sense. And it feels like Keith Lee was there to simply like fulfill a contract obligation.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, after the match, they did like show respect and stuff. Like Keith Lee showed us some depth like afterwards, and Keith like pointed to the crowd. Taylor pointed to the crowd. They shook hands and stuff. So I guess he's a babyface again. If he was even a heel in this match, I don't know.
No, and fair point. It's just like the Lexus King thing where I'm like, Shane Taylor shakes his hand and he's like, you know what, Keith? I just made all of this grudge up actually so I could get a match with you on Final Battle. Like, what the fuck? It's the same shit where I'm like, you do not come out of this looking any better. And this is a high profile match. Like, even though Keith Lee has not been a constant, he is still a big name in pro wrestling. And what's Keith Lee going to do from this now? He's going to presumably feud with Swerve Strickland. And I don't know what's going to happen for Shane Taylor. But again, and I think this was exacerbated by Shane Taylor's hometown presence, by his family being ringside. It's very Gable and Gunther, right? Where it's like, why did you set it up all like this? But yeah. Well, this is probably my least favorite. I'd probably give this one a 2.
I like this match actually. To be honest,
let's go.
I'm gonna be honest and be against not just you, but the inmates and all of the Shane Taylor haters out there in the world. I thought even Meltzer gave it 2.5 here. I thought there was parts, and kind of like we said about, it's the complete opposite in a lot of ways, but like the Vikingo and Taurus match, there was, in that match, there were spots that were great, and then there were spots that didn't connect because they messed things up or something went wrong. Here, there were spots that were great, but then there were some spots where it was like things ground to a halt almost, and that sucks. There was parts, it's a really Jekyll and Hyde match where it was like, part of it to me really hit. That flip pile driver off the top was phenomenal. You had Lee do a spot early on where he hit the slingshot over the top just to get a pin cover. They were hard hitting at times too. They would throw the shoulder blocks. Some of it was basic, yes, but for two guys who are as big as them, I can live with that. Just simple powerhouse wrestling. Where they were flawed to me was the Moriarty stuff. Ultimately, I think that's where things went down for me. And where it ended up being like, I would have given this a full wreck, like at least 3.5. But Moriarty's interference kind of toned it down, and then the ending, no selling, that flip pile driver, that should have been it. Like, that should have been the ending to the match, to me. If that had ended on that, this would have been memorable. You'd have gotten Shane his win. You could go somewhere with him. Instead, Keith wins. It doesn't mean anything other than, like you said, I don't even know if he's going to feud with Swerve. I think they're going to build to that one match, play off the stuff that also hasn't been finished. Keith Lee, the king of feuds that take years to end and go unmentioned for months at a time as well. Dude, that is his deal.
I would also say, like, if you do Swerve versus MJF, right, leading to Revolution.
Yeah.
Assuming that Revolution is the pay-per-view after World's End, correct?
Yeah, and they don't have any more listed. I think it's going to be Revolution after World's End in March.
So, God, so that's okay. That's actually a 3-month push, which is pretty crazy. That's March 5th. So I guess you could absolutely fit in a Swerve and Keith Lee feud and then go into MJF. I think the issue for me is, like, I would rather have Keith Lee be chasing, quote unquote, him, right? Like, Swerve is so past moved him. I think that would be a perfect first opponent for Swerve as a world champion.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Because I think if Swerve goes to fight Keith Lee, it's sort of out of this main event picture that Swerve is now in. And I think that the key is to get Keith Lee into that picture rather than pulling Swerve out of it right now. So I really hope that they build towards it, which is funny to say after 2 fucking years, rather than rushing it now, especially after you've already dropped the MJF Swerve seeds. But dude, I agree too. I want to say, like, the 2 stars definitely lies in the opening. I love, and we saw it again on AEW. God damn it. Who was it? It was last night. Was there a big boy match? Oh, Cage versus Lee. And dude, the audience is just now beef.
Yeah.
Anytime they do the shoulder tackles, I love it. Like, dude, throw the fucking bag at Keith Lee, Big Japan. If you want, Great Kojika, if you were to retire in a fucking mansion, bud, throw the bag at Keith Lee. This guy. Oh my God.
I'm a huge fan of Keith Lee. I think he could definitely be a worthy main eventer. They haven't used him near as much as they should have, in my opinion, or they could have. But he is a guy that I see a lot in. Very unique style, especially for a big guy. I think the world of him as a talent. I think Shane Taylor's a good talent. I don't know how many plans they have for him. I mean, he went through that weird phase where he had the white hair and all of that. I think that really soured some people on him just by the look alone. But as a talent, I think that brother can work. And Shane Taylor, I'm a fan of as well. I like him. And hopefully we can see some good stuff for both men. The finish was underwhelming for sure. I went with the 3 stars for me, so I'm a full star different than you. I think it was nearing being higher. I thought the Moriarty stuff drug it down, unfortunately. But yeah, after the match, Keith showed him some love, gave him some dap, lifted him up. It was good stuff. That end. Then Brian Keith, they cut to him, and he's like, "I want gold." And Orange Cassidy's like, "Hey, I got a title. What, you want to fight for it?" And Keith's like, yeah, that's exactly what I had in mind, actually. Yeah. And just to swerve back, no pun intended on Swerve Strickland, but to swerve back to your point on Yuta, if he's on the 96 Bulls, is he the Tony Kukoc of wrestling?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not Pippen, Robin, or fucking Jordan, I can tell you that.
So he's got to be the Kukoc. Maybe Steve Kerr.
Not bad at all, dude. Like, definitely, you're rightfully a legend as well. You got the rings, just
you're just not the dude. You're not the MJ. Yeah. I'm just saying, man. On here, but
dude. Okay. By the way, congrats. Yeah. Not to segue. This is our basketball update. Congrats on John Morant being back in your game winner. How the fuck did that
feel? Hey. That Big 12 is back. Man, hey, it's a party in my city right now. Listen, John Morant, game changer. Like, this team totally different. Undefeated since he came back, 3-0. Just had another one. That game winner, we came back for 24 points down and put that fraud Zion Williamson in his place in there when Ja could, he couldn't handle Ja. at the end of the day. Last game, we were down by 12 against Atlanta. Still came back. Desmond Bain killing it. Ja fired up. He had a huge look up the highlights. The alley-oop. Aldama threw. Ja leaped up like 10 feet in the air almost to slam it down. It was badass. I'm super fired up for the Grizzlies after that.
Dude, hell yeah. Is Marcus Smart coming back soon, or is he back already?
No, he ain't back yet, but he'll be back soon. D-Rose coming back soon. Brandon Clark coming back at the All-Star break. Steven Adams, Aquaman, unfortunately not coming back this year, but everybody else should be back by the All-Star break. So this team, look out, people. Look out, people. Don't worry about the in-season tournament. The play-in days, the playoff days, we're coming. So shout out to the Grizzlies. I love them.
When you said Zion Williamson, I don't know why, but it just popped in my head that awful Stephen A. Smith clip where he's like, the cooks in New Orleans know that he will eat the table. And I just pictured Stephen A. Smith and Meltzer doing a podcast where Stephen A. Smith is like, Dave, the cooks in New Orleans know about Zion Williamson. And then Dave's like, yeah, I actually heard that they had to remove Zion's entire stomach during an operation and then they put it back in. Just both of them saying these totally just out there fucking claims, dude. Like,
hey,
poor guy, dude. That shit's so dumb. Like, I want to see you play a basketball game, Stephen Smith, but I digress. See,
it's just Stephen A. He is a loudmouth, man. Like, I don't got a lot of respect for him overall.
Basketball Don Callis. Fucking
hey, that could be it. He needs to get like a faction of guys that he always rides with, and like that. That's like
walk out in the
yes,
fucking arena
exactly.
to that music. It's like
okay, so clearly, Draymond Green. Yeah, he's the automatic number one heel. It has to be Draymond with Stephen A.
James Harden, like
yes, totally on point. Is CP3 like? Can we put him in there?
Yes. Oh my god.
Yeah, the Stephen A. family.
What was it? Was it Warriors versus Suns? And I was watching it was CP3 walking past Devin Booker, and you can tell he's just talking down to him. He's like, "I'm not on the team anymore. I can big league you." And dude, anytime Booker would shoot free throws, Paul would walk by him and smack him on the butt each fucking time. And I was like, "Dude, give it up!" But
yeah, I love basketball. We're gonna go in on a basketball podcast one day. But I'm definitely fired up for that now. But hey, shout out to the '96 Bulls. Although I hate them because they beat my Sonics at the time. At the end of the day. So hey, listen, Hershey Hawkins, Detlef Shrimp, Gary Payton, Sean Kemp. I had his shoes when I was a kid. Used to play with him on NBA Jam. But the '96 Bulls ruined it. They ruined my chance overall. But no, I was too young to even worry. But I did have the shoes, and they were awesome. But shout out to all of them. Shout out to Brian Keith. He got the match versus OC Collision. You see that match?
Yeah, I thought it was good. Like right now, I think OC's stuff the matches are suffering from the sort of same thing in his first reign, where he's doing the weekly matches, but it's sort of without the direction. And I feel like he's pretty much having to run this same sort of story right now of just re-becoming the workhorse. What I like is the matches are good. Like, I even thought the random one against Angelico on Rampage was nice. Like, wrestling a little more technical, Leveo style. I fuck with that, of course. Like, dude, okay, seeing Negro Casas wrestle live, even though it was against Tony Deppen, which still a great talent, but not the first one you're going to think of wrestling Negro Casas, right?
True.
Seeing him wrestle at midnight WrestleMania weekend, dude, and just feeling like I'm watching. It was like watching a fucking Beethoven play piano or Bocelli scene. I was like, this is a guy just painting right now in a ring, man. That was so cool to see, just that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, what are we talking about again? Orange Cassidy.
Just the match was good. It wasn't too special. They had 8 or 9 minutes, but it was still good, worth a watch. OC and Brian Keith on Collision. I just wanted to see if you saw that match because it did happen this week already. But speaking of artwork, Beethoven, we had that in Violence with the next match. the Blackpool Combat Club versus Mark Briscoe and FTR. I mean, this match was so damn great. I love this match. To me, it was almost perfect. Like, I don't want to spoil anything for the awards episode coming up in a couple episodes, but if we're talking about this match again on that episode because of me, I wouldn't be surprised, is all I'm saying, because I thought this was great, emotional. And we have to mention, too, even on cage matches, split into two matches, even though it's kind of like one, they just restarted it, but whatever. It's the same match, really. The first part was like a normal match. It ended in a double countout. And Mark Briscoe, he got on the mic and was like, no, fuck this bullshit. And they came in, huge brawl. He leapt off and attacked right away. They go into this insane brawl for the last 10 minutes of the match. This is a match of the year level match to me. One of the absolute best. The emotions of it being the Jay Briscoe match. And I'll say this. Maybe it won't actually be the number one match of the year for me. But for the finish, there wasn't a more satisfying ending to a match this year than this one, where you had the chairs, and unlike Neeson Page earlier with the chairs, they actually did hit the chairs this time. He hit the Jay Driller onto Bryan Danielson and got the win.
Yep.
I love this match so much. It was so good. They came up with the chairs. They had a board that was taxed. They pile drove Moxley onto the tax and the thing. This was hardcore. It was a brawl. Moxley had a fork in here at one point. Things were just going insane. What a match.
Dude, yeah, like, okay, you hyping it this hard. I did give it 4 3/4. I fucking love this match, but yes. I will totally say I was a little fatigued on the pay-per-view. I think this was hour 4. I need to stop watching pre-shows, but goddamn, I like them.
This is a problem. Like, a lot of this show that we've gone over, even I defended the Keith and Shane Taylor match, but those two matches, if they had cut out Yuta and Lawler and the Shane Taylor match and the squash, even the 6-man title match, if they had cut all of those out, this show would not have been any worse for it, and it wouldn't have been a 5-hour show along with the pre-show.
If you had told me, like, when we sat down and watched this, that final battle was going to be 5 hours, I would have been like, fuck you. I think it was when Athena and Billie Starkz were wrestling. Walt, my friend Walt, Wrestling Walt, shout out Walt. Was messaging me like, when the fuck are you hopping on Call of Duty? And I was like, oh, Athena and Billie are going on right now. He's like, it's fucking 10 p.m. And I was like, what? Like, what? But like, okay. That said, I do want to go back and watch it now. But, dude, I fucking love this. I honestly, Dylan, I think the only thing that would have made this 5 stars is that if when the double countout happened, if instead of Mark Briscoe mentioning his late brother, Jay Briscoe, he got on the mic and he said 5 more minutes. I think that could have really just – no, dude, I loved it. Like this it had the emotion of Fury versus Utami #1 with the absolute insanity and violence of Crazy Lovers versus Astronauts from this year's Sakio Tag League. Like, dude, just the whole thing of like them brawling the fuck out. Like, the match does not matter. The fight is what matters, right?
Yeah.
And dude, top to bottom, everything was great. It's one of those matches where you're watching it and you just forget that the shit's, you know, not always is real, you know.
The only part they screwed up with this match was when Dax went over to the girl and with the phone and bitched about it. It's like, come on, listen, you are gonna have an amazing match. You know you're doing cool stuff. Like, you're gonna win them over. Like, don't get mad about it. You're gonna win everybody over. Why did you get offended by that? I thought that was so lame.
Imagine, I mean, dude, I'm just happy Cash wasn't strapped. You know, we could have got some ramp rage. You know what I'm saying, on the entrance ramp? My goodness.
What a point.
But no, dude, everything about this was great. Like, it's hard for me to talk about outside of just if you hear fight to honor Jay Briscoe and you see the names involved in this, there is an expectation. They exceeded it. Mark pinning Danielson, beautiful.
Oh, I loved it.
That was poetry, and it's one of those things where Danielson was like, pin me.
Oh yeah, this is Brian, the most unselfish wrestler. He probably demanded. He said, "I will fine you on Twitter if you do not pin me in this match." Here, Mark Briscoe, and man, everything about this. You had a barbed wire like a ladder at one point in here. It's like they had so much stuff going on in there. I love the spot where he had the.
Sorry, real quick, but it looked like they were having fun the whole time too, you know?
They were. they were having fun, and I loved it. This was awesome. I love the spot where he had the label lock on Wheeler, Cash, and then Moxley came in with the barbed wire and put it in his face with the label lock. The chairs were going crazy. Man, everything about this match was so good. I love this match. Match of the year level match, maybe anywhere. Like I said, to me, not even just in America. This will be remembered. I promise you that. At the end of the day, wonderful match and a great emotion, and what a nice way to get behind it overall. But what you said about the show being long is absolutely valid, and true. I will say, I wish that it hadn't have been that way for this match, but still, it doesn't matter to me. I loved it. 4 3/4, absolutely right. Cage match, Inmates 9.11. Meltzer gave it 4 3/4, so we're all kind of on the same page. This match was good, just a little bit short from being a perfect match, but it's as close as you could get to me overall. Just a ton of fun, just a fun match here. They did the Proving Ground match with Eddie Kingston and Anthony Henry. Oh, I get it. You want a buffer match between this insane match and the women's match.
I didn't think you needed it at all, though.
I didn't think so. It's totally different match. Yeah.
The adrenaline you're feeling from the fight without honor, and I think because it's very contained within a Jay Briscoe tribute, right? There's no other shit attached to it other than these are 6 men fighting for love of the game, which I love that. That's becoming like something they're saying on TV now, post Briscoe and Lethal, for the love of the game. And like Athena and Starkz is such, like, that's your main event, right? I did not think you needed this buffer whatsoever. I think it made it harder for Athena and Billie to start off.
I agree. I totally agree with that. And I get it. You want the again, this almost made a mockery of the title. Like, we're going to have you on, but you aren't going to defend the title. It's going to be a meaningless match that was not even worth talking about. There's nothing in this match that was even a little bit special. Unfortunately, nothing against Anthony Henry, a fine talent, and Kingston we all love so much. But this was just not it at the time. And I totally agree with what you said. It would have been so much better. The wave of emotion from the last match, the crowd would have been rocking. And you had the one match on the show really with a truly like fleshed out story for the main event. And not one that was like, oh, that's true a year ago, but now we're bringing it back for this. Or the Page, like, oh, you're not in shape. Like, this is a really fleshed out story with Dominion and things like that. You could have gone right to that and been fine. The Inmates were right. To me, this is a 2.5-star match. Nothing inherently wrong with it, but nothing special. The Proving Ground match. 5.41, Meltzer 2.5 as well. So me and Meltzer are the same.
This is the bias I want to talk about. Eddie Kingston, Anthony Henry, 5-minute match, 5.41. Genuinely, though, why does this get a higher rating than Shane Taylor and Keith Lee? And I wasn't even a big fan of it. Like, it's just weird.
I'm the one who defended the Keith Lee and Shane match, so I'm totally with you on that overall. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, they got that out of the way, and that led to the main event. The Ring of Honor Women's World Title match, Athena defending against Billie Starkz. And they had Lexi Nair, who was also a part of their storyline, do the intros for the match. Obviously, this was a big deal to have the women in the main event spot. You had the Women's World Title match main eventing the Final Battle, which is a great testament, even though to me, like I said, the match, the fight without honor was just so amazing that I loved it so much. But these two came in there Athena comes out with speaking of basketball references, she went full Rip Hamilton here with the mask on over the broken nose. She came out in this like really wild attire and like pulled her mask off to reveal another mask under her, which I popped for. But it was to protect her broken nose, I think. And there was a lot of effort here. Again, that's one thing you can say pretty much up and down this show. The effort of the performers cannot be questioned on this show. And I'm sure they probably heard a lot. They knew the attendance wasn't very good ultimately. You know, it was under 2,000 seats here for this, which probably made a lot of people determined to make them, anybody who could have gone, regret it that didn't. And the effort was here for this match. What did you think by the end of it here? Because I know this was the match that really drew you to this show. What did you think of this match?
Great point. Just want to, touch on what you said. Like with AEW, whether it is AEW or, ROH, they are very consistent in terms of pay-per-view in-ring quality. Like you are, even if the builds aren't good, you're typically always getting a very quality pay-per-view. And with something like Final Battle as well, and with these not being an Omega or whatever, and it's still being like, I thought this was one of the better pay-per-views of the year, honestly. I think it's a testament to the workers for being able to pull this off. And dude, also I want to shout out the fucking fans. Dude, this was one of the like most lit audiences I think all year. They sounded like a full arena. And dude, what's insane is like I had fatigue watching at home. They were still loud as fuck for Athena and Billie Starkz. Like they stayed through the show and it was surprising. That said, this match, the only real negative I could say is the finish. Like to me, I am a massive Starkz fan. I think it was Tampa WrestleMania weekend post 2021. So post the pandemic in Studio One where Spring Break got canceled and everything. Billie Starkz had this weekend of matches where, she fought Gary J in a fucking action IWTV showcase. She fought Starboy Charlie at Spring Break, and there was just a whole bunch of other matches I can't remember. Dude, it was so funny. She wrestled on she had to leave the Spring Break the collective during for the culture event or whatever, because it was the Faye Jackson Gray Sweatpants Battle Royale, and she was like 15 at the time. So they had her leave. Dude, she is a prodigy. I genuinely believe that she is when I think about North American based wrestlers, I think for this generation, our best wrestler like the past one for me is Sasha Banks. It's Mercedes. And I really think Billie could be that next person, dude. This had, like, when I saw that it was 28 minutes, I genuinely could not believe it. This had great pacing. It never slogged for me, at least. Dude, the top rope. Did they do a top rope Japanese Ocean Cyclone, or was it a German? What move did they do?
Yeah, I think it was the German, but it looked very close, to say the least.
Dude, it was such high elevation. Like, and I would love to. Okay, real quick. Sorry, I forgot. But dude, Fletcher busting out, because that insane move just reminded me of this. But I think the spot in Survival of the Fittest. When you're watching a match, does it ever happen when like they hit one move and you're like, dude, that's a whole quarter edition right there. That elevated it, right?
Yeah, it was. Oh, I looked at it now. So this move here, it was like a Kreutz Wrath almost, like the electric chair into the German from the top.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a combination almost of the Japanese Ocean and the German.
Insane.
Yeah,
thank
it was
you for
great.
looking that up. But okay, I was thinking of Fletcher doing the top rope brainbuster turnbuckle drop on Commander. That fucking popped me so hard, because you never see that busted out anymore. And dude, it looked so nasty. But same with this top rope move here. Like, dude, everything, they were killing each other. And this genuinely to me felt like a Stardom main event in terms of just the level of brutality, the length. When do we ever get women's matches this long? Even on AEW, like on your pay-per-views, Tony Storm's matches, the women's match is never going to go past 15 minutes. Dude, this is fucking awesome. Like, it was not the cleanest match. I think Billie is still rough sometimes, but dude, that's what I love. She reminds me of early Punk, where like Punk's moveset was never super clean and crisp as like a Swerve Strickland, but it's that roughness that really adds to the overall factor, I think. And dude, like AEW right now having Starkz, Wayne, I think if they pick up like a Leon Slater and a Jordan Oliver, I think they are very set up for that like Gen fucking Z stuff. Like, I think WWE just got Brogan Finley. It's like that literal brat pack, right? Like Starboard Charlie too. Like these are very good wrestlers. I don't know if are you into skateboarding at all?
Yeah, I used to be a really big. I had my deck had Pikachu on it when I was younger, but I haven't skateboarded in like probably 10 years at this point. But I'm still a fan though. I'll watch the X Games every year when it comes on.
There's this there was this group. I want to say it's like Elijah Burrell. It was during Girls Video. Pretty Sweet, and it was like Elijah Burrell. They were called the Trunk Boys. And it was like this group of young kids, and you're just like, dude, okay, they're doing like, Corey Kennedy, Elijah Burrell, Stevie Perez, Sean Malto, and dude, they're like young in their teens at this point. And like, you have Cade now, and then the kid who just won Street League at 12. Like, we're in that point now where we're seeing virtuosos, dude, like before they're like league, like Nick Wayne signed to AEW but can't wrestle for them because he's literally not old enough yet. Like, we're at a crazy age, dude. And like, I think what we're seeing though is like in America, this is really happening now, right? In Japan, you have like DDT, and Azumi's a 44-year-old veteran already in the business, right? So, and she's only 20.
She's 21.
Yeah. So it's like, it's very exciting to see this stuff so early on. And I go back to like Chris Hero talking about fatherless children on the indies, right? And I remember Regal and Hunter talking about, we don't mind signing a Finn Balor once he's 36. Let him go around and get his reps and then come here. No, dude, sign the fucking young people too, because I want to see these stories develop. That's why I watch All Japan House shows, because Hokuto Omori, I want to see, you could tell it was going to be a big year for him. I want to see that progression, right? From Wolf Moon to looking like a young little pillar now with Nakajima. Like, shit's cool, man. And it's all about the youth. Without the youth, you have WWE Ruthless Aggression. So, and I don't want to go back there.
No, okay. Well,
I should
the
say
Ruthless Aggression.
Mid 2010. Sorry.
I'd say Ruthless Aggression had their young guys, to be fair. But 2010 level, that sucked. Like, don't totally agree.
But sorry, that's a big rant to say that, dude. I'm all in on Billie Starkz. My big negative, I think Starkz should have won. This felt like the necessary passing of the torch. This is like Okada at Naito when Naito didn't win, and you're like, what's happening now? This felt like Athena needed to go to the main roster. This felt like her graduation for all the hard work. Unless they run it back, which they totally could. I like Taya, Nyla, those are good matches on paper, right? And they're bigger names than the Jasmine Allure. But like, dude, I think it was definitely the wrong decision. That is, I would give this one like 4.5, honestly. I really loved it. 4.25 to 4.5. I think the finish, if Starkz won, that could have really brought it up to like a match of the year contender for me.
I think that, first of all, 100% agree. I thought that Billie should have won here. Let us have a moment on this show, which, I mean, the fight without honor was amazing, and the finish was amazing, but you could have had a really crowning moment. That match wasn't for a title or anything like that. It was just special on its own. But we didn't get to see a real crowning moment, I felt like, here, other than Fletcher, perhaps in the TV title match. But still, this is the main event. You want to see the dawning of a new era, turn the page. Like you said, Athena, time for her to move into AEW. She's been one of the most consistent parts of Ring of Honor, one of the MVPs of the company, and one of the best workers on top of it. But now, I hated how they did the post-match too. Like, I really hated how that happened.
It didn't make sense to me. It really didn't. I just want to be your, like, it's like, and again, like, thank God it happened after and not during like a fucking Roman Reigns or Young Bucks match, because that would have just killed this whole fucking thing.
Yeah, that would have ruined the whole thing. But
thank you for
as
running
a match,
this after the pin.
But as a match, Billie, I thought she has her strengths for sure. Far from a finished product. But if you look at her effort again, she is a great bump taker. There was blood in this match. Athena brought the violence at times. There are parts to this where it's a little over the top. Like the personality of Athena, especially, like she's so screamy and super angry that it's not always natural to me. Compared to when she first kind of turned heel, remember when she was like, everyone was afraid. She's like, Athena's too dangerous. Like,
she shot on Jody Threat. Oh my God. And then meanwhile, like people were like, Nakajima knocked out Endo shoot style, bro. That shit was sick. Like,
well, but when she came in doing that, she leaned into it, which was very smart, and made it her gimmick. And she was just like a no nonsense badass. Like, I'm going to hurt people. And I loved that. Like, I was totally on board with that. And I thought it was great. Then the stuff with this Billie Starkz thing is basically, like Starkz is like her servant, and Athena is her dom, and they go around. And now finally Billie was like, screw this crap, I want to be the champion. Like, you don't like, you got to respect me, Athena. And she should have earned her respect in this match, you would think, with the way it played out. And instead she's just like, yeah, like, I want to be your minion again. What? Like, that's not the right way. Like, that makes no sense in the terms of the storyline. I didn't like it at all. And that kind of like deflated me about the match as a whole. But there was a lot of good stuff to it, though, however. I will say that I personally preferred the Willow match from July at Death Before Dishonor. I thought that was Athena's tip-top best match, and that was a fantastic match. Billie totally deserves roses thrown her way. 19 years old, doing great performances like this in the main event. A storyline that, again, I definitely didn't like how this played out in the aftermath, but coming into the match, it was well done. This would have been the student overtaking the teacher type of thing they could have done. The finish with the ref bump, too, I didn't like that part either, with the ref getting bumped, and I get that you wanted to have Lexi Nair involved somehow, but I wouldn't have gone that route overall. But still, a good match. Athena had a ton of violence, and they wanted to really – it wasn't like this was some like – it wasn't like the Vikingo and Taurus match where there were all these insane moves or anything. They had a pretty basic match for a main event. This match was all about fire, intensity, and aggression, and then you had the big moves they built up to, where you had that big memorable spot with Kreutz Wrath from the top, which was a great moment for sure. And I love too when they did the thing from the barricade where she hit that like the sling blade to the face, like on the floor, was really good. Starkz was doing wild bumps again. And one thing I wish too would have been better. There was a part in the match where Billie grabbed at Athena's mask and pulled it down, and I was like, okay. Like I kind of like stood up a little bit for that. I was like, okay, now we're getting something really special. And she was so soft on her strikes. It was kind of like, remember when we were talking about the NXT show, and Trick had this amazing aura and was doing cool shit all over the place, but his strikes sucked so much. And then Billie comes in, like, this was your chance. I wanted her to blast Athena, and she went safe, which was, as a more moral person, like humanity-wise, she was obviously holding back for an injury, right? Like, she didn't want to blow her away with she's already injured in the nose. But for me, just getting into the match and the story, someone who's abused you and treated you like her servant for a year, you should want to blast her, and she just didn't deliver on that end. And I thought that was a pivotal moment that they dropped the ball on a little, in my opinion, which could have been great. But still, I would definitely recommend this match. I'm a little lower on it than you and even the inmates. I had this at 4 stars as well. I would put this above the Vikingo and Taurus match, though, putting 1-on-1. But I thought the fight without honor was like unbelievably great. And this was a worthy main event, ultimately, don't get me wrong, which is a testament to Billie Starkz. Again, at such a young age. But again, she is young, but she's been at this 5-6 years at this point. She's getting up there in terms of wrestling age, and hopefully she's got we know that she's got a bright future, obviously, and she'll be somebody that you can put on TV and do great things throughout. Hopefully Athena can get the spot on AEW because she's done a fantastic job, even though I don't love the character. And like I said, her acting is a little overacty to me, but like her performance has never been better than it has been this year. This title reign's great. I don't know where they go from here with this title reign. As you mentioned, they set up 2 heelish challengers before, and they've reunited the minions, I guess, under, Miss Athena now. Where does this title go at this point? Like, who would be a better person to win than Billie here?
Lexi Nair.
Lexi Nair?
Dude, it's going to be like Maxine Dupree. She's going to bust out the top rope Japanese Ocean Cyclone suplex. And then we're like, what? But no, like, I agree with everything you said. I really don't know where they can go right now unless they run like a Willow trilogy. I feel like they've already done 3 though. I don't remember.
Yeah, they had their chance with her and they passed it up twice,
And again, Willow feels very solidified on the main roster now. I like what they've been doing with her and Stat and stuff. Also, dude, real quick, shout out Mercedes Martinez and Diamante versus Stat and Willow. I was thinking of you the whole time because I know you're a Diamante fan.
Diamante, that's my girl. I love her wrestling, and Chris is another one I really thought deserves a lot more credit for a TBS reign. But that sounds like a great match.
But I was gonna say, okay, like, who Billie reminds me of right now, and like this person is 30 now. Which I'm like, dude, okay, 11 years from now, Billie reminds me of a very young Mayu, taking the world's most fucked up bumps, willing to do any spots, tries everything. Like, dude, works harder, like, does the intergender stuff like Mayu did in fucking Lucha Underground, dude. Like, I really think that Billie will be one of those next top talents. And like, I think certain matches, like when I rate them as well, I sort of look at it as well as like, to me, this feels like a chapter in both women's careers. Like, this is something that if we were to look back, we'd be like, yeah, when they had their final battle match, like, a Danielson Morishima type theme, like this was a canon event for both of these people. And what I really hope, and what was not indicated immediately afterwards, which, as we both said, was deflating, but that this helps them both go into their next chapter. So I don't know. I mean, you could do something interesting where Billie goes to AEW, right? And then Athena comes after and she's like, you left me behind. And like Shane Taylor.
Yeah, that would work.
But I mean, there's a lot of ways you could do it. Have they had TV since the pay-per-view?
Ring of Honor?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, because I was going to say I'm going to try to start watching now, or keeping up more than I have been. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's it for me.
Well, no, they actually did have a show, actually. So,
looking here. Okay, yep, they built up Taya again. She beat Vert Vixen, it looks like.
No, stop jumping on Vert.
Von Erichs beat the Workhorsemen. Fuck off.
Oh yeah, the Von Erichs. Yeah,
Don't be surprised if they turn up on the Worst of show.
Hey, are you gonna watch the Iron Claw movie?
Yes, I really want to go see it. I just gotta find time.
Yeah. But yeah, this show is not winning me over. I'm looking at the lineup right now. To be honest.
I guess overall though, this pay-per-view, when I look back at it, the matches that are forgettable, I have completely forgotten. And then I look back and I say, dude, there are 4 matches on here that I pretty much can put at 4.5 and feel comfortable. And 3 of those were half an hour long. And I think that is no easy feat to have 3 30-minute matches that all exceed very good quality and expectations. Yeah. So for me, this show was a huge success, especially for how much of an absolute afterthought it felt like. I think they delivered an amazing show to the fans, which was, indicated by the fans reciprocating through just endless energy and involvement. The highs were insanely highs. Again, the lows were never offensively bad.
No, there was nothing on the show that was actively bad, in my opinion. Yeah. Other than like some choices, like the Kingston and Henry match was a bad choice.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Keith Lee and Shane Taylor match more than most, but still, if I could have, I would have eliminated the Lee and Taylor match, tried to add some more build to that to the next whatever they're going to do with that. I would have kept one of the Pure and the six-man title match. I would have gotten rid of the other. I don't think you needed both on this show. I personally like the six-man match better, but if you needed the Pure title on, that's fine as well. You would have cut two matches off, and the squash, which just was not needed at all. It just wasted time, literally. And I think that at that point, this is closer to a 4-hour show, even counting 0 hour. And I would have definitely had Billie win at the end, just because I can't see any way it ends better. And for the story, how they did it was completely nonsensical, and it does not make me happy to continue following it. But I will try. I've got the Honor Club subscription. I looked at the card. I was not impressed, but I'll give them a shot. But as a show, I mean, the Fight Without Honor was an incredible match, in my opinion. Definitely the best of the match of the night. The TV title Survivor of the Finish was a great match, and very successful in what it wanted to accomplish. I thought that was awesome. The main event was a great match, even though I had some quibbles about it. It was still really good and a worthy main event, even at almost 30 minutes. And then the opener, again, there were complaints to be had, but I still would say it was a great match overall. And some people probably thought the I Quit match was a great match, like Meltzer, if you were into the Plunder. So that's at least 5 deep, and definitely, I would say, the top 3 matches were all pretty solid, solidly up there as great matches. I can't imagine anybody not liking the Fight Without Honor. But the other 2 matches were great too. Those 3 I would highly, highly recommend. And the opener I would as well. And, if you're into the I Quit style, maybe you don't like it, or maybe you like it more as a match type than we did. Maybe that's worth your time as well. And like you said, nothing else was bad on the show, even the stuff that I didn't like. So this was a really strong show. Up and down. You have to consider it up there as one of the better shows in AEW this year. So I really enjoyed that. Shout out to what they did here. The Ring of Honor team deserves credit. They did their best to make a show memorable, and I really liked it. So, and I, again, want to give more roses to Caprice and Ian. I thought they were excellent on commentary all throughout to the very end of the main event. I thought they did a great job. So everything about it was good.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'm keeping in mind this is a Ring of Honor pay-per-view, right? And that old school identity is a Final Battle. I think they definitely did succeed. I see the inmates, 8.46, probably go between a 7.5 or so. But your AAA mega title match reminds me of when they used to bring in the Dragon Gate guys, right?
Totally.
Your I Quit match is just that really deep classic, Jimmy Jacobs, Age of the Fall shit. I feel your Survival of the Fittest match is absolutely, to me, the heart and beating fucking soul of what made ROH so special.
I agree.
And then, your fight to honor Jay Briscoe, just beautiful. And then what I really loved is the women's world title main eventing, though. It felt like the new era of ROH, right? Because I'm not going to pretend, no disrespect to anyone, but the Mandy Leon or whatever and Sumi Sakai era of the ROH women's scene was anything that was impactful or really felt like it had a presence on the show or something meaningful. And I think that if new ROH has succeeded in anything, it's integrating an actual women's division, which more often than not delivers more than the actual AEW women's division does. So to me, is a Ring of Honor pay-per-view, because sometimes I always look at this as another AEW pay-per-view, right? I think that this really succeeded not only as a pay-per-view in terms of in-ring quality, but as a goddamn Ring of Honor pay-per-view. And that's so cool to see after this is the 20th Final Battle or something insane like that. I don't even know, but it's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the goal from here on should be much less AEW involvement. Ring of Honor should have their own stars that are not beholden to AEW at the end of the day. And we will talk about who the world champion of the company is, because that was not decided on this show. Instead, it's in the middle of the tournament that we all love very much and have covered all the way through, the Continental Classic of AEW. We went long on the Ring of Honor show, so let's go ahead and get through this week's matches and where they're going, because they did set up the finals of each block this week. I will say right now on the Dynamite show, I'll briefly give my thoughts, and you can use yours, and we'll talk about the finals after.
Sweet.
Swerve and Rouge.
Dylan, sorry, we're talking Holiday Bash, not Winter's Coming, right? The names confuse me. There's so and then it's all holiday themed right now.
Yeah, it's all holiday, right? Okay. So
Holiday Bash. Okay, cool.
Yeah, a Holiday Bash. Okay. Swerve and Rouge. It was really good. I liked it a lot. I thought that it was pretty much the right call to keep Swerve in to things. I would have liked Rouge to get a win just to make it more dramatic. By considering who was going to win the main event, you couldn't do that at the end. So Swerve winning was right. Good match. It wasn't at the level of like Rouge and Mark, in my opinion, but a good match. I like the Mark and Jay match even better, like Jay Lethal. Love the thing, like you mentioned it earlier, their promo backstage was one of my favorite promos of the whole tournament, where they were there at first, like Jarrett and crew were making fun of Mark, and then the guy asked Mark, he's like, what's going on here? And he's like, you lost all your matches, man. What's up? And he's like, this is like my rookie season. 20 years as a tag team. Yeah. Go on.
Can I talk about this real quick? Because I've been watching it back a lot because I need to really go back. Something I don't remember as much of promos, but that really is like one of my top 5 of the year. It reminds me of Takeshita.
Totally.
Brooks.
I love it.
I think what they really succeeded, and I want to shout out the AEW production team here, is they fit 3 scenes in one continuous shot here. And that is no easy feat in pro wrestling, because a lot of the time the acting is not great. So first you have Briscoe's solo promo, where he just gives and Briscoe's ability to give promos is so goddamn natural and amazing. Where
he's awesome.
He is so good. He, I don't know, when people talk about Cody Rhodes, right? Cody Rhodes is a hell of a promo. Sometimes I think they feel very staged. I feel like the way people talk about Cody is just how Mark Briscoe does promos. He is the most natural babyface. Yeah, I was a tag team wrestler for 23 years. This is my rookie season as a singles wrestler. The losses don't matter. And the sincerity and his maturity surrounding it or whatever. Then Jared and them come in, like you said, you have the comedic sequence in the middle. Jace shuns them off or whatever. I got this. And then they have a very honest and genuine conversation there. Well, we don't got much to lose, for the love of the fucking game, man.
For the love of the game.
And dude, again, in film, right? People will say, oh, there's no cuts, right? Like a WWE thing would, but the decision not to cut is the same as cutting. It's an editing decision in its own choice. And dude, they built this match. I think at the very beginning of the title, we both said too, I bet Briscoe Lethal's going to be the last one. And dude, it was great. I thought that because how do you match the emotion of their last match, right? Where it's to celebrate Jay Briscoe just passing away as a tribute. Yeah. And they figured out how to fucking not only match that, but I thought continue it in a very meaningful way. That wasn't just, let's do it for Jay, right? It's a story, dude. It's not just a moment that they're stuck to now. And I loved it. So sorry for breaking right here, because I know there's another one on this show, but dude, I just had to shout that out. What a great moment in the tournament.
Yeah, and within 2 minutes, with 2 guys who haven't won any matches, they both had 0 points. This was still my most anticipated match of the tournament, just based off of that. They did such a phenomenal job in the backstage. Like you said, it was so real. With the love of the game, Lethal says, well, how about honor? I like it. He said, it was perfect. Their characters were perfect. Called back to their history. Everybody knows that amazing match they had with the Jay Briscoe tribute match. And then at the end, it was a perfect finish. Jay Lethal using the Jay Driller, and it not being enough, but then when Mark does the Jay Driller, it was enough. It was a perfect finish. They shook hands. It was all real emotions. It wasn't bull crap like it sometimes happens in wrestling. It was perfect. I love that match a lot.
Yeah, and so just real quick on Swerve and Roosh, I definitely thought that was going to be the draw. I thought that Swerve was going to go to 10 and then Moxley was going to beat Jay. That's kind of how I saw it happening. But, dude, I would say if there was one thing I wish Roosh could have gotten more wins. Again, I don't really know where you could have done it, though. I think he just needed one big win. And I thought that
I totally agree.
I think he should have beat Moxley. But if they're going to do the Moxley feud after this, then hell yeah, right? But, just Briscoe and Lethal, great. I also, just looking kind of back now that we're in the semifinals, is these people's stories and the tournament as a whole, right? Like, we've really gotten to see how seamlessly and well a G1 can work on American weekly television, which is fucking awesome because the stories are consistent. You get stuff like Zack Sabre Jr., right, on his, sort of loss and ranting about Bojo. And instead of the post-match, you're getting these promos on the show. And to have, this is the beautiful little storytelling here, right? We can see very clear trajectories for all of these people coming out too. That's fucking awesome. Lethal, we can definitely see is going back to the drawing board, right? Almost like him telling Jared and them to leave while he was talking about Mark. I could see them forming a tag team, dude. Or
totally.
But that's also very antithetical to what I'm about to say. So, but or maybe just a friendship again. But Mark in the promo before this talking about his rookie season as a singles guy, and he finishes the tournament with a win. That's all he needed was that one win because of that promo he said, and it sold it all so well. He comes out of this, man, he was a highlight, and we'll get into it. And
he was one of the MVPs,
dude. Yeah. I think that everyone in the Gold League showed the fuck up, or no, Blue League was all.
Yeah, Blue League was all stars.
Gold League, dude. Jay White, I thought he lost stock in this thing. Oh. Dylan, music to my ears. That was poetry. I couldn't have said it myself. So please feel free to go into it.
Well. After all the years in New Japan of all the Jay White fans telling me how great he truly was, look what we see here. Yet another tournament where he's the worst guy in it because that's what he was in this tournament. He was not impressive at all. He didn't gain anything from a storyline perspective, and we'll see what happens at the final. But what you said was so factual. This is proof to all of these naysayers out there that are always like, AEW doesn't tell stories. In-ring wrestling, screw that. We need stories. This is proof that wrestling in and of itself is storytelling, ultimately. You can have a tournament with all matches that improves most everybody, again, outside of Jay White, and also sets up things to come. You've told stories in this tournament with everybody, whether it was Swerve, whether it was Mark Briscoe, Jay Lethal, even though he lost every match, he still has, he gained from this tournament. If he wasn't in this tournament, he wouldn't have anything to him. He'd just be another guy in Jeff Jarrett's goofy group, and he wouldn't matter at all. Now you actually want to see where he goes from that. Will him and Mark unite? Will they at least go for it? I know Mark had said he didn't want to do another tag team, obviously with Jay Briscoe passing away. So you could see that, but at least maybe come to his aid, do a one-off, come to his aid. Maybe Jay turns on everybody. He's getting beaten down. Then Mark makes the save, and it leads to a big match. Roosh worked his own storyline practically with Jon Moxley, totally set up a great potential feud. That could be a first challenge if Moxley was to win the Triple Crown. Ultimately, Moxley done great things, elevated pretty much everyone he wrestled. And then Jay White, same old, throughout all of his tournament. Boring matches, nothing storyline-wise. At least he didn't wrestle MJF was his main positive, I would say, in this tournament. But other than that, this win was so flat to me.
Yes.
And
dude.
I know we both agree about the triple threat being that, and I think they've done a masterful job of this tournament booking up and down. Like I said, the Blue League, there are no complaints, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the Gold League, they were like pretty masterful. Jay was the weak link, Jay White, but still, he wasn't that bad that it was a big deal. Like, he's an acceptable worst guy on the block. But then you do this triple threat. This is something that should have happened 5 years from now. The first ever tie that leads to a triple threat, but you're doing it the first year. And I know that it's probably because you want to protect Swerve and Moxley. I don't know, like, one of them is probably going to win and Jay will take the fall and the other one won't get pinned. I get that. But you didn't have to do it that way. You should have done it in a way to where you didn't have to worry about that. You could have booked your way out of it. And for it for them to break the scale on the first time ever, I just didn't like it. It was just a lame decision. But you could speak on it now if you would like.
Yeah, and I felt kind of blindsided by it because I didn't, like, for me, right, I thought that Swerve technically has the tiebreaker, right? Because he beat, but Jay beat Moxley.
Yeah, they all beat each other.
Motherfucker.
Yeah.
But yes, I totally agree. I would have much preferred a singles. And here's the thing, too. If Jay had a remarkable tournament, I do not think I would mind this. I think if Jay really showed up, I would be like,
if it was Mark Briscoe in the final three, let's say Mark got all the wins.
I do not like the triple threat inherently just because it's a triple threat in the tournament, like you said. But if you're going to do it, I still think, like, if Jay maybe didn't do so poorly, I thought, and like you said, it was flat. I think Jay. I liked Jay more in New Japan than I do in the US. Like, when I think about my favorite Jay White matches, the FTR tag match, the Ibushi
that was a
G1
fantastic
finals, match. And then Ibushi G1 finals, and then Ishii G1 semis. And the constant between
that was great too. Yeah, you're right.
Is that Jay White is getting his fucking ass beaten up. Jay White is so good at playing a prick who gets beat down ultimately, right? Like, in all three of those matches, the people just snap on him at one point and do, like in the FTR match when he takes all those moves and keeps kicking out. I like that Jay. I like Jay who has literally no breath in his lungs, who's like standing on his feet barely, and he just gets killed. I do like Jay White in those moments, but man, like, the character and the repetition and the lack of any real change from New Japan to here now, and like, this just didn't work for me at all throughout this whole tournament. And again, like, it's one of those things where I don't think he necessarily benefited from it.
I don't either.
Here felt like they had stories. This felt like it was rehabilitation for Jay because they fumbled him so fucking badly post MJF.
Yeah, coming off one of the worst matches of the year, as well, like almost universally agreed.
And it's just cage match and Meltzer 4.5. Still so funny.
Except for Meltzer, of course. Yes.
But I don't know. I thought Moxley had a remarkable tournament though. Jesus.
Moxley was awesome.
This dude, we're all, it's because it's Moxley, right? But like, dude, he just had a great tournament overall. Overall.
And he didn't really it's not like his story was like that meaningful, or not that complicated, more accurately. But he made what he had meaningful through his promos that he had. And this is another thing. This should be a big, big siren to Tony Khan. This tournament, again, much like the storytelling, like, this is proof you could do good storytelling with it being good and not stupid, like the devil and all of that. And this tournament proves that you could have guys lose and it doesn't hurt them. Moxley did not lose anything by taking a clean fall in this tournament. Neither did Swerve, neither did anybody. You don't have to be so overprotective that you do the tournament like the Owen Hart, which is what I feared this would be like, where they would do draws and not let anybody take a clean fall. They actually had the balls to actually make this a good tournament, and that's why everyone loves it. It's been successful in the ratings. The ratings have gone up through the tournament. Listen, people. Why would anyone hate this tournament outside of like bad faith people, ultimately?
And like just the stability it's brought back to television.
Absolutely.
I love it. I think that if you really want to fucking elevate the women's division, we said this again, run this again during the summer. Run one tournament during the summer, run one during the winter. I think that's awesome to do it like this. You know, one culminates at All Out, the other culminates at World's End or whatever. I don't know. Because I would love to see them do a women's one. I think that they have the talent, and I think that that would be a massive and meaningful investment. And I think that what they've shown us here, right, is that on Dynamite throughout this entire tournament, we've seen the resurgence of Riho. So much great timeless Tony stuff. And then, dude, we've just been having these random banger Roddy Strong matches. Like, that's sick, too. And it's like, and then on Collision, like, you have all of, you know, content or the C2 matches. You've had an actual women's feud. You had Willow and Stat with Mercedes and Diamante. Now you have Julia and Abaddon with Sky Blue doing a lot on these shows as well. In addition to just some like really sound Brian Cage matches. And what I like is that this whole time we've seen how seamlessly you can blend the tournament with the actual show without them feeling like two different entities. And man, it's again, like this has really helped me fall back in love with AEW to where I'm watching the shows, you know, as quickly as I can, as opposed to just listening to a review, you know?
Absolutely. I agree with all of that. And the women's tournament should be something they at least make the attempt for. You could bring somebody in from a Ring of Honor, a special guest, maybe even somebody from, you know, Japan of some sort if you wanted a special guest. And you have great talent all around. We know it won't be Julia because Tony Khan is blind, apparently, when it comes to women. But to everyone else, there's still a lot of great talent that you can put in there. You have great women on your roster that you could do some big things with. Like you said, Riho coming back. The crowd loves her. Building up to a pretty nifty little title shot here with Tony. We'll see what happens going forward, but I hope that does come to pass because I think you could gain a lot. I don't know how the quality will be as good as this tournament, but you will gain something from it anyway, even if it's not as good overall. Not everything has to be perfect to be a step forward as well, and I think that they need to embrace that talent that way as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I think like, again, you know, AEW now, they have like their Champion Carnival, and they have their Royal Road and the Owen Hart, right? If they actually turn the Owen Hart into something meaningful, again, that's your summer right there. I forgot.
Yeah.
You can run a women's tournament in the spring. And like, dude, like, okay, imagine one block. You got Stat, Willow, Thunder Rosa, Sheeta, Riho, and Tony. Like, dude, they have the talent. They just don't have the fucking consistency, I feel like.
Yeah.
And again, like, what I really like about this tournament is that having this like assured, and I've said it a million times now, but consistency, right? Stability. I think it allows them to do more outside of the tournament on TV. That's like trying new stuff out, integrating other people, because you're guaranteed great matches and stars already, right? So now we see like, dude, Sky Blue, Abaddon, Brian Cage, Roddy Strong. Like these are people who were not, you know, at least in ring. Roddy was in the wheelchair, but not prominently featured really before the tournament. And like now we've seen whole career changes for these people, and it's awesome. So that's my rant on Dynamite.
And then last night we had the Collision Continental Classic match. Bryan Danielson and Claudio, freaking awesome. Like one of the best matches of the tournament, if not the best. And we all knew it would be. Like anyone with sense knew these two were going to deliver a banger. I don't even have to get into it too much. It was just freaking great, and I loved it. It was the one draw of the tournament. I thought that was great booking too, to save one draw to make it special, and it's perfect. It's so logical. The two stablemates going to it. I loved everything about that match. It was awesome. Danny Garcia gets his first win of the tournament. Again, simple storytelling that was done to perfection, with him getting the upset over Brody King at the end to get the win. I think I would have rather honestly had that match first, because with the draw, that pretty much eliminated Brody from advancing. So I would have had that match open the show and then gone to Bryan and Claudio, and it would have been that much more. But still, it wasn't about Brody. It was about Garcia getting his win here. And Brody had got a great push at the start as well. As I mentioned when we were covering it early on, if you look at Gato booking of G1, there's always a guy who starts out hot and then loses all of his matches. Like he wins his first half and then loses his back half. They did the same thing with Brody King. It still worked. He still gained something from it. It was great. Eddie and Andrade, that was a really good match in its own right. One of Eddie's best in the tournament so far. Andrade's really stepped his game up here in Blue League. And Eddie, of course, gets the win. And in the end, they don't do a triple threat or anything weird like that. It's Brian versus Eddie, one-on-one. What do you think of Blue League?
Blue League, time limit draw, amazing. Like you said, them only doing 1-2, very surprising. At the beginning of this tournament, we talked a lot about like AEW's inability sometimes to really let people lose. And dude, no interferences. They delivered. The closest thing we got, and I was pretty surprised, was the post-match beatdown on Garcia. But yeah, I thought best match of the tournament, Danielson Claudio, no contest. It was just fucking unreal when Claudio uppercutted Danielson, and they do that moment where Danielson's just smiling. Is Claudio's like trying to like stretch out his arm because he hit him so hard. I loved the finish. Garcia pinning Brody King. I loved. I really liked the ending sequence, right? The Gonzo bomb. Garcia doesn't kick out at one or anything, doesn't no-sell it. He barely survives it. And then it's Brody's pause and his lack of a follow-up that allows Garcia to sort of regain and then play possum to go into the jackknife. Really great finish. Kind of weird post-match just with the FTR. I just noticed we've been talking for 4 hours, so I'm not going to dive into it. So I am so sorry, Dylan. And then
don't apologize. I love it.
No, Kingston, Andrade, really good match. I loved the
only 2.5 on recording too, by the way, so it's fine.
Oh, okay. I want to make sure you don't have to run or anything. So
no.
Okay. What was I gonna say? Yeah, if they're doing a Mark Briscoe, Jay Lethal stable, I say throw an FDR with them. I think that would be a really cool fucking stable. I don't really know. I know House of Black's feuding with FTR, but now it kind of feels like they helped out Daniel Garcia and Daddy Magic, but that's like a weird alignment. I don't really know what's happening there. But again, both these guys' tournaments, I thought Brody really established himself as the singles guy in House of Black. And you can really now, when Malachi and Buddy came out and held Daniel for Brody, you can really feel the power shift in House of Black, that Brody and Julia are kind of your de facto leaders now as opposed to just a Malachi, which I thought was super interesting. Real quick, I want to talk about the women's tag match. I love Julia Hart and Sky Blue together. I thought the majority of the interactions with them two and Abaddon were great. I love the part where they just sat her down and just kept smacking her and chopping her. They're fun together. They work well together. I thought this was a really bad time, or not the match to re-debut Thunder Rosa. This random alignment with Abaddon. I mean, it seems so she can challenge for the TBS title. This is Collision, right? But part of me really wished that there was I don't think the Bunny Alley's with AEW anymore, but an evil Alley with an Abaddon feuding with a Julia Hart and Sky Blue, I think is so much sicker. Thunder Rosa just kind of felt like the Kurt Angle in the Shield here. It's 3 fucking evil horror looking goth chicks, and then it's Thunder Rosa making her hometown return, which it felt it was like the Codyverse inside of a match that had nothing to fucking do with it. But again, I really am liking this sort of more storylines outside of just titles, it seems like now for the women's division. And again, dude, Kingston, Danielson, what a final. That's going to be the one where it's I really don't know what's going to happen, Maybe Moxley Kingston finals could be Mox Danielson, Swerve Danielson. Because Swerve and Danielson fought recently, right? It was TNT #1 contender. Danielson beat Swerve, so he could totally get his win back then.
The Tuesday show.
Yeah, dude, Swerve could be Triple Crown champion and face Keith Lee. These are other things. I want him to go for the world title, but if he's the first Triple Crown too, make it fucking mean something. I'm cool with it. I don't know, whatever. But I'm very excited. As a whole, going into the semis, I'm going to assume the semifinals take place this Wednesday. Finals at World's End, right?
That's right. Yeah,
dude, I'd love to do a little post show Wednesday, short little one if you want.
Absolutely.
Talk about it. World's End preview.
If you're down for it, I am double down for it because I'm into the finals. Not a fan of the triple threat, but either way, it's cool. I'm looking forward to see how it plays out, and maybe if anything else, if Jay White advances, then we'll have something to complain about on the next episode as well. So, to me, the logical final is what I predicted at the start of this whole thing, which was Moxley and Kingston. Like, finally pay off their long-term story that has the deepest backstory to it, and you get it to end the year for a major stipulation. And in my opinion, I would have Eddie just retain the title, like, and finally get his win over Moxley. They hug and all that stuff and that emotional and all that. That's what I would do. But on the other hand, that's the most logical and deepest story. The problem for me is Bryan Danielson's in this tournament. So that means I want him to win, and I want him to also win the title because I want him to have the most matches, ultimately, regardless of logic or storylines. So I will always want Bryan to have the most matches. So if he wins, I would have no complaints at all. If Swerve wins, I wouldn't mind. Jay White, in my opinion, should not advance. He does not deserve it. But Swerve does. Like, if he did win, that would be totally fine. Have him go for the Triple Crown. Like you said, you have an easy pair-off. I think Moxley winning the Triple Crown would be good. You have Roosh, like, an easy first challenger to go for that you could play off of this tournament as well. Moxley would be a great choice as well. If you want him to kind of be the anchor of Ring of Honor for a little while, I think that would be a great choice. That's one thing I do want to say. I think whoever wins should be a Ring of Honor guy while they're the champion. Like, they need to be the face of the company and holding this Triple Crown and making it mean something. My gut says Kingston, but any one of the other four could win.
I think what this also does is it circumnavigates the gray area of having the Ring of Honor champion on AEW television.
Yeah, you're right, because he's an AEW champion. Yeah,
because this will be the sort of the North American Triple Crown, right? This will totally allow them to, just basically move between shows with no longer like the weirdness, which is awesome. Sort of removing Jay White from the picture without hopefully jinxing ourselves.
Yeah.
Jon Moxley, Swerve Strickland, Bryan Danielson, Eddie Kingston. This is a remarkable Final Four. If you're looking at like a first ever tournament semifinals, this is pretty much your Tanahashi, Naito, Okada, and Ibushi, right? Like, this is just a really fucking great set of guys. I think that, hopefully when we move into next year, we can look back and be like, dude, how are they going to top themselves this year? Whether it's expanded fields, I would definitely be down for a 10-man field, just because I think that having the Danielson and Garcia match on Rampage, like, dude, Rampage would be the perfect place if you wanted to run some Mark Briscoe, Jay Lethal Rampage main event, right? Like, that's awesome. That, I think, would bring some eyes to it. And just fill out the shows more, because it's like, you don't need everything they're doing sometimes, and more meaningful stuff would definitely count. So, again, outside of Jay White, I really can't say enough positive. And even then, like, I liked Jay's match against Swerve. I think that was definitely his best one in the tournament. I thought his match against Mark was pretty good too. But outside of that, the Roosh one was pretty deflating. Actually, no, I would say that one was pretty decent too, just because Roosh beat the shit out of him. But again, deflating finish. Lethal, dude, Montreal. I will never forget that match. Let's go, Jay. And I would say that his Moxley one was honestly probably the worst, which is very strange to say. Like you said, just incredibly flat, and it felt like the one thing that didn't maybe feel organic in this tournament. Like, that felt like the artificial, sort of, we have to do this shit, right?
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out, and we will talk about the finals and the semifinals as well on Wednesday. I cannot wait to get to that, as well as World's End. Should be a lot of fun stuff coming up. Before we get on out of here, we will quickly, to bring it back to Final Battle, I took some notes on the media scrum coming out of that as well. We will talk a little bit about it now. And the first people that were on were FTR and Mark Briscoe, as they should have been, because they were awesome. Mark was talking about how, he was basically like, that match was like his therapy. because this is his first Christmas without Jay in it, and the kids, their parents, sisters and all that. And he was like, just saying, hey, this is a new normal, but me and my family, I got faith in God because I think he's in a better place, not worrying about Twitter posts or whatever there or bills or anything like that. Somebody asked him about, because recently there was this controversy on Twitter where SmackDown, their media guy or whatever, called Lashley and the Street Profits dim boys, and Mark was like, what? Like, we're, like me, the Briscoes are dim boys. And that caused this whole nonsensical, stupid controversy by fans. But he was like, on the anniversary of this match we had, it was tough. In wrestling, there's only one dim boys. He's like, you can talk about the Cowboys, maybe in hip hop, but that's all good. But in wrestling, it's only the only dim boys are Mark and Jay Briscoe was pretty much it. But he said that he was emotional about it going on there. And he's going to try to stay off of Twitter more, I think was probably the best idea, pretty much. They basically said, they asked him about going for the 6-man titles, and FTR said they're going to let Mark be a singles guy first, but maybe one day. Ethan Page showed up. Again, he was really likable on commentary. Mark was too, but Ethan really did a good job on the commentary. And he basically said, for Ring of Honor, in Ring of Honor, he can help elevate it and make it a place to be, pretty much. And that's a good thing. And if you ain't like that, then you probably shouldn't be there. That's a good thing. And he told a story about how they were looking for a partner. Like when Men of the Year started, they brought that up. And he was saying how basically they totally lied to Tony Khan and was acting like, oh, yeah, Scorpio Sky, that's my best friend. Like we're always tight. Blah, blah, blah. But in reality, they had never been friends at all, like or known each other that much in the first place. But they just convinced Tony Khan that they were friends so they could be a tag team. And then they became friends afterwards in real life as well. So that was really cool. That was a really nice story. And he was talking about how he really enjoyed the match with him and Omega from Collision a couple of weeks ago. Gave some shout out, and let me say that right now too. Get well soon to Kenny Omega. I know he's got that diverticulitis thing going on. I hope that brother recovers and does okay. You don't ever want to see anybody go down. Obviously his last promo was not anything to put on the highlight reel for him, but you never want anybody going down, and hopefully he gets better soon. And Jericho also did a great job as well on the Dynamite, where he gave a very heartfelt promo there. I thought that was really well done and nice overall.
Last night when Ricky Starks said Kenny Omega doesn't have the guts to face them, I was like, dude, that's fucking brutal. I thought that was nasty. And then
Big Bill said that diverticulitis sounds made up. He was like, yeah, he was like, hey, my cousin had gingivitis. He's okay.
Dude, it was like, he's like, let me check my notes. It's not the bad type of diverticulitis, I think. So, but dude, yeah, it's the most unfortunate thing is, we still got the Chris Jericho match, but dude, it's a fucking scary thing. I'm very happy Kenny's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Got caught when he did. It sounds like, a situation that's very similar to Moxley and Punk. And it seems to be an unfortunate recurring theme sometimes with these wrestlers who are so accustomed to living in pain that they may ignore these signs. So, I hope that this is one of those things as well that sort of helps normalize getting help and getting checked out in pro wrestling, because the amount of times we hear about these people committing or superhuman feats, whether it's wrestling with a 103-degree fever in a WrestleMania main event, or, wrestling with 2 torn ACLs, fucking whatever. It's like, we are human beings. Bodies are fragile in the end. And no matter what, health comes first. Right. So I hope this is something that Kenny's able to bounce back from quick and as healthy as possible, as well as other wrestlers just remembering that, you you don't always need to fucking be in pain, man.
Absolutely. And I think that's something everybody should know. And hopefully Kenny Omega gets well soon. Just want to send both of our heartfelt wishes to him. Merry Christmas to everybody going on. And hopefully everybody recovers and does some good things. To close it out, they had Kyle Fletcher on. And he was basically saying, like, man, it kind of sucks being a singles guy. If anything goes wrong, I want to have somebody to blame. But I can't do that now. It's only on me, pretty much. So it's a challenge, it's a challenge for him for that. He wants to blame people for his problems. That's okay. They had Billie Starkz on, and she said, Tony Khan was basically like saying, as soon as you showed up, you were 18 years old, and I knew I had something in you back then. And somebody asked her about, like, hey, why are you doing this? Like, you're only 19 years old. And she was just like, well, I've been wrestling for so long now, and I just love wrestling. Like, that was basically her deal. She's like, I just love it. She was like, I gave up my friends, I gave up my childhood, but I still love wrestling anyway, so we're going to keep rolling for as long as I can. Yeah.
She rules.
She does. Billie Starkz is good. I will give her the credit for that. And Athena was there, finally, where she was basically saying, like, I have to go all out because I had a major injury, like I needed surgery on my Achilles. And when that happened, I thought I might never wrestle again. So I wrestle every match like it's my last. And she was like, somebody asked her, they were like, isn't it an honor that Tony Khan lets you main event Ring of Honor shows? And she was like, I don't know why he lets me main event these shows. Like, it doesn't make any sense, but it's nerve-wracking because, we had to follow the kind of matches that happened on Final Battle. But she said, ultimately, whenever he gives me the opportunity, I'll always deliver, which kind of answered that question as well. And then Tony Khan was like, yeah, she's one of the best in the world. And so they asked her, they're like, hey, when's Athena coming to, like, can you put her on AEW? And he was like, that'll be interesting if that happens. Thanks, Tony. So then he set everything aside, and he was like the last guy, Tony Khan. And they asked about WWE negotiating with Warner Brothers Discovery. And he, like, all of his answers in this segment were like non-answers. He was just like, yeah, I talked to Warner Brothers. We've been there for a while, but hey, AEW's doing good. Like, we had the #1 ratings, on their network, and we've been doing some of the best shows we've ever done lately. It was like promoter talk, pretty much. But he was just like, hey, with media rights coming up, everybody has to do their due diligence, and I think next year will be great. Talked about All In. And he was like, yeah, I've been a part of the NFL and soccer, and, stuff happens sometimes in sports, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Well, it was basically what he was saying. And then he was like, then he went on a rant a little bit where he was like, man, being in AEW and also Ring of Honor too, let's tell the truth. Being in AEW, you're always under constant attacks from everybody. You do a great show, and the next day, everybody's saying bad stuff about it and talking negative on it. You could do 5 great shows in a row, and people still aren't happy with us. You could break the ticket record for most tickets ever sold, and somebody always has to say something bad about it.
Wait, so is he saying that what he's actually saying is that if you – let's do the deep voice probe. He's like, if you work at AEW or Ring of Honor, I'll never forget that, dude. I won't sit back and fucking take this shit. Yeah, if you work for these companies, you're subject to CM Punk fucking up your shows. That's why
he didn't mention that part.
He did?
No, he didn't mention that part. He just talked about how he was talking about the fans that were like, oh, like everybody always complains. Nobody likes our shows. Like, even if we do great things all the time, you find somebody online that talks bad and attacks AEW, and AEW is always fighting off everybody.
And I feel like the crux of that, though, is always CM Punk. When I look at post pay-per-view, anytime they do something great, like, it's everyone I mean, I guess there's like the tribalists or whatever, right? But
Yeah,
at least in like the main channels, the general speak, it's like it's always just CM Punk this past calendar year just doing some bullshit, whether it's tweeting something from Rocky or literally beating up Jungle Boy and threatening Tony Khan or fucking just or talking about Hangman as a toy seller. Like, dude, this guy was the fucking. And to look at AEW and see that they're actually in a pretty good spot after the absolute year of this prick haunting them, congrats to them. So.
Well, he came in and he said, he was like, even when people talking, like I could have the greatest shows of all time, people still complain. He said, let's talk about the facts. Every single person who was in my position to run a wrestling company has gone out of business. I'm the only promoter left, he said, here to go against WWE. And he was like, everybody who stepped up and put millions of dollars into this and done it week after week, 52 weeks of a year, I'm the last one left. Nobody else has done it. And he was like, it's a fight. And even for the fans, it's a credit to the fans. I know what it's like because it's 52 weeks a year. It's hard. And he's like, that's why you can't go for too long because we're all addicted. And it's worth it. He's like, I love the fight. I'm never going to stop fighting no matter what happens. It's always going to be worth it. And he was like, just like Jim Crockett, Vern Gagne, Ted Turner, and all the rest, God bless them, but I'm doing it all for you. And I know all of you are here in spirit. Thank you very much.
He like hugs someone next to him that's not there, and he's like, I just hugged Stan Munchnick. Yeah. But dude, I really hope that whenever I feel like everything it's getting exacerbated because of the media rights coming up. I think once everyone resigns, it's like everyone's good again for 4 fucking years. So it's like it's election year for AEW or something. What's going to happen? And it's like, dude, in the end, they're still largely like one of the number 1 rated weekly television shows for Warner Discovery. And it's like, dude, even if they don't stay there, they will find another home because live television, live fucking weekly television like that is such a dying breed sans sports in terms of like for scripted content. Like, dude, this absolutely has a place on television. I don't understand, again, people in basketball who are basketball fans, right? I'm not sitting there and I'm like, I hope the Brooklyn Nets go out of business. It's such a fucking ignorant and just ridiculous thing to wish people out of work. Like, unless you're like a fucking, I don't know, Velveteen Dream or like just a very bad person outside of the ring, right? I will never advocate for you to not be somewhere, It's just insane. And I really hope that, again, once these media rights are done, it just ends because in pro wrestling, because it is still such a largely veiled industry as much as we know, right? Like with CM Punk at Survivor Series, Sean Ross Sapp, I 100% guarantee 5 minutes later, I have all the details on CM Punk. Subscribe. It's like, fuck you. We still function under assumption, right? And I'm not going to sit here and assume one company's going to fail and another's not, because right now both seem to be relatively on fire in terms of like the online buzz and people enjoying it. And hey, one's not for me, the other I'm loving, but it seems like both are doing well. And as an industry overall, that's fucking great because it means that people like Cody Rhodes can go to WWE and people like Adam Copeland and Bryan Danielson can come over to AEW, right? It's a thriving industry, and that's all we can really hope for as fans. Because, if an AEW fails, that's less opportunities for wrestlers, right? If WWE doesn't do as well, that's the standard. It's like Disney losing money, right? It's like people aren't going to believe in the stuff as much. So let's root for each other, y'all, in this new year. And that's our New Year's resolution as wrestling fans. Let's root for each other. Unless what's a promotion we don't want to support?
XPW.
Yeah, unless you're an XPW fan, go fuck yourself.
That's the only one I said I couldn't do. That was a step too far for me.
As I'm about to travel to LA next weekend to see the Circle 6 King of the Death matches. Yeah, fuck yourself if you're an XPW fan.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the wars continue on the XPW show. They mentioned the Iron Claw movie. We talked about it earlier. We'll see it one day. I probably won't go to the theaters to see it, but when it comes on TV, I'll watch it, or on demand or something maybe. But they mentioned MJF got an executive producer role. I don't think he was in the movie that long, but they did their thing, and hopefully everything goes good. And they said that he said, "Hey, I'm thinking about putting all the Ring of Honor pay-per-views on Honor Club in the future, and it might make more sense." And I hope it does. Like I said, I think this is better for me as a fan anyway on Honor Club. So good job, Tony Khan. Booked a good pay-per-view, booked a great tournament, even though some stuff, there's some bumps in the road. It's okay. Nobody's perfect. Nobody bats 1,000, right? So that's cool. Thanks for putting it on Honor Club. $10. We like that better than the higher price. It helped us both come in, and man, hell of a show right now. So as always, Nello, thank you so much for taking so much time.
Dude, of course. It's a blast. And last thing for me, more like pay-per-views on Honor Club means the potential for way more pay-per-views. You can run monthly pay-per-views. I think that could help Ring of Honor television stay a little bit more relevant, as opposed to just like, oh, it's the seasonal pay-per-view. In terms of anything else, man, I'm so jazzed for the year-end award show. I'm going to be back from LA Sunday night, so we'll hopefully we will have out the World's End review. We can chat then, and then we'll talk Dynamite this week, dude. I'm hyped as hell, and thank you as always for having me.
Absolutely. I love doing it, and I can't wait to do it again. I always have some of the most fun talking to you on Wrestle Update, and all the fans out there. We appreciate you listening. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. It was a ton of fun. If you're on YouTube, hit that thumbs up, subscribe. Give us 5-star reviews if you can, if you think we deserve it. Hopefully we do on here. We're doing the best we can. And lots of fun stuff coming up. World's End coming up. Like you said, the semifinals of the tournament coming up. We'll do a little bit on that. WWE's got 3 live specials, like pay-per-views, but on TV with Raw, SmackDown, NXT. I'll do something with that. I don't know exactly how it's going to work out, but I'll figure something out. And then the award shows, the best of and worst of the year. That is good. You want to tune into that. That's one that you got to tell your friends about, because that's going to be a ton of fun and a great way to start the year, and also close the chapter for one chapter and then start the next chapter in the best way. So we will do that. Keep your eyes peeled and your ears open. We need you. We love you as always. We hope you guys had an excellent holiday season, whatever you celebrate. Hopefully you got some good food out of it. And Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. And until next time, this has been your Wrestle Update.